Hi guys, welcome back. It's me, Michael William Denney, the Thunder Shaman. Um, want to continue on this theme we've been talking about how to take complete control of your reality right here and now. So obviously, as you, some of you, or most of you know, this topic of death and life after death and what does the soul go through after death is obviously something that I've been thinking a lot about over the past, over the past year, but especially over the past 45 days, something like that. I lost my fiance, my spiritual wife. I lost her to cancer at that time. So obviously I'm thinking of these things. So what got me started on this idea of the Book of the Dead was a friend of mine who's also a female, and I always listen to Shakti. Sometimes it has, Shakti, the feminine, has something very powerful for me. Sometimes not, but even if in the moment I'm like, whatever, I always listen. My brain always goes, listen, this is Shakti talking. Let's see what she has to say. So my friend was very interested in the Tibetan Book of the Dead and asked if I would take a look at it for her and share my thoughts. So I'm doing so, and I thought it would be a really great subject to share with everybody. So that's what I'm going to do here. So let me just be clear about something. I am not a Tibetan Buddhist. I know some things about Tibetan Buddhism. But I'm certainly not a Tibetan Buddhist, nor am I an expert in Buddhism, nor am I pretending to be an expert. So this is not going to be me sharing to you piece by piece, like I do with the Norse mythology, what's going on and what this word means. No. What I'm going to do is I'm just going to take a look at it from just more of a layman's perspective, but I'm going to bring a shamanic awareness to it because when this idea was first floated to me, my first thought was, I don't really want to do that. I'm not interested in that. I mean, I get that it's there and it's an important text in Buddhism, but I'm not Buddhist and I don't. But of course, I said, Shakti's talking, listen to her. So when I started looking at it, and again, I'm just looking at the basics of it, I became aware that this is, for me, this is a text not about how to get through death, how to travel the land of death and avoid being trapped or, forced back into an unfavorable reincarnation. For me, this book is a metaphor on how to live from moment to moment. And even though it may be true that this is one way that souls can experience transformation after leaving the body, I believe that it's accurate. But I think what's more accurate for me is that this is telling me how to live from day to day. So I'm going to be addressing a lot of things. My friend, I won't mention her name because I haven't gotten her permission to mention her name, but she was actually pretty had some strong feelings about how important this book was and how important it was to practice this. And that for her, she was really going to put some effort in making sure that this book was chanted on her death because she didn't want to get lost. She didn't want her soul to get lost. And that's what, me, when it comes to, anything that strikes me as a fear-based belief system, which this for me would, if you're afraid of something, if you're afraid of what's going to happen to you after death, then I start to go, well, let's look at this differently. And but when I read through it, my instinct said, maybe there's something really important here that will be applicable to the here and now. And sure enough, there was. So what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to be reading not from the Book of the Dead, but I'm going to be reading a synopsis of it for us laymen. And there's some really important things in there which you will see as we go through it, that this is really a metaphor for the shamanism that I teach. And let me be clear again about what shamanism is. You know, as I get more and more popular, every now and then new people come up and they start wanting to tell me what shamanism means, and I shouldn't call myself a shaman, and blah, blah, blah. But, you know, the word shamanism, whether we like it or not, has a definition in our modern society, which is different from the original definition of the word shamanism. Actually, there is no such word as shamanism. That's like saying priestism. Shaman is just the name for the Mongolian type of priest in their religion. They happen to have a religion that goes back into prehistory. You know how I feel about those. We like spiritual practices that have an unbroken connection. And it happens to be an animist religion. As you know, animism is the original belief, and if you work with spiritualities that have this unbroken connection, they are almost uniformly animist, meaning that there is a belief that everything has energy in it, that everything has consciousness, that everything can be communicated with, whether that be a rock, whether that be a tree, whether that be the sky, whether it be the ocean, a stream, or whether it be spirits. And that human beings have the ability. We are just one of many types of entities that live in this multiverse. And so working with spiritual energies is very important to health, to prosperity, to happiness, to all that kind of stuff. And so the animist priest or priestess is seen as being a gateway between the physical and the spiritual. That's what I mean when I use the word. Now, people have used the word shaman because there was a point in history in European society back in the 16 and 1700s where the closest thing that Europe had to people who were authentically practicing an animist tradition were the Mongolians. And so Christians were coming back, even though they were only, 1,000 years, or even in some cases a few hundred years separated from their original animist tradition. They would come back and talk about these shamans and the crazy things these shamans did. And that's where the word caught on. And from that point on, especially in academic circles, shamanism was the default word for animist spiritual practices. So the reality is that this is the word that we use in modern times, whether I like it or not. And I tried for a long time to find the right word. That's why we call this the Thunder Wizard path, because I wanted to have a term that reflected something to my ancestral tradition. But even then, that word means nothing now, even though originally wizard means wise person, wiseard, somebody who's wise. So who is the wisdom? The cunning folk. That's another word used for even into more modern times about shamans. The wise people. They're wise. Why are they wise? Because they have a connection to the other world, because they can see things that other people have difficulty seeing. They have an understanding that other people don't. So we call them wise. Wiseard. That's all it is. So when it comes to I kind of went off on a tangent, as I am wont to do. So I'm going to share with you, when I use the word shamanic, I mean my brand of shamanism, my understanding, because that is the best way. Shamanism is an understanding that we live in a multiverse, and that the shaman has the ability either to travel to other realms or connect to other realms or explain other realms. We talked last week briefly about the difference between seethe and galder. Galder is magic. It means to chant. Galder, yawl, yaller, holler, galder means to chant. And seethe means to boil. And so seethe would be what we would now call shamanism, which means to tap into the other realm, to travel to the other realm, to channel the deities, to prophesy. And then we have galder, which is magic, which is really the wizard who has the ability to do the rituals. And as you know, if you get a reading from me, that's the main thing, is I pick a ritual for you based on your astrology. And the wizard has the ability to listen to what the vision is of the seethe. when the seeth master comes back and he or she says, I saw this and this happened and that appeared and this and blah, blah, blah. Then the wizard goes, well, that's this. That means this. This is what that means. That's what that means. And he or she is able to take the wisdom, the lesson, and apply it to this life. This is one of the things that's missing in modern New Age mysticism and shamanism, is that people are all about going and having some kind of a vision. But I can guarantee you, a lot of times you come back, you don't know what the hell you saw and what it means. In fact, you can't even tell the difference between, was I experiencing myself? Was I experiencing something outside of me? What was really happening? What is the message here? So we have to have these two. We have to have Galder and Seeth together. We have to have shamanism and wizardry together in order to have the full complement. I say I listen to Shakti. When Shakti talks to me, whether it's a friend of mine or if, when I was married or with my spiritual wife, I listen to what they say, even if it comes at me in a weird way, or even if it hurts, or even if they're not coming from a place of awareness. Shakti's always trying to tell me something, so I listen to it. So when my friend said, and really hammered away at how important this was, I said, okay, Shakti's trying to tell me something. Let's take a look at it. So this Tibetan Book of the Dead, from my shamanic perspective, is a book that can be used to help you navigate the next world when you die. But it is also a book that is filled with symbolism about this life and about what we do every single moment. So let me be clear. Let's talk about weird. W-Y-R-D. If you're new to my channel, you may not have heard me talk about this. I used to talk about it a lot. Weird is the ancient European concept of what we would call destiny or karma. And it is made up of three factors. There's three giantesses. In fact, I think I have them here. There are three giantesses who are in control of these forces that we call destiny or weird. We still have this word in our language, weird, for a reason, because it was so fundamental to our ancestral spirituality that even today, when we don't even know what it means anymore, we are incapable of getting rid of it. Not only are we incapable of getting rid of it, I mean, I challenge you to go through an entire day without having said weird multiple times throughout the day. And we think it means strange or spooky, or I almost said weird, strange or spooky or mysterious or ugly or interesting, but weird was the fabric of the universe. So 2,000 years ago in Europe, if somebody says, that's weird, they're not saying that's strange. It might be strange. They're not saying it's spooky. It might be spooky. They're not saying that it's ugly or frightening, although it might be ugly or frightening. They're saying this is the law of how the universe functions. What just happened was weird. We have to pay attention. That's, again, a different understanding. Our ancestors knew that when something unexplained or spooky happened, it wasn't just something we didn't understand. There was something here, that this was something that could be, even though it might be really intense and worthy of respect and awe, it was something that we could connect to because we weren't afraid of the other side of the world. Nowadays, when we say weird, it means we don't know what the hell that meant. We don't understand how could that possibly exist. That shouldn't exist. That's weird. So there's three forces of weird. There is the past, which our ancestors called origins. There is the future, which our ancestors called debt, which is exactly what karma is. Karma and the future. The word for future was should. We use it today when we say you should do this. I should do that. This is what should happen. It means it's not guaranteed, but that's what you owe. You should give your mother a call. You owe your mom a call. So the future is what we owe, which we will have to experience. And then there's the present, which is the ever unfolding now. So there, there really isn't a past or a future. There's the present. And in the present, we make decisions, we have feelings, we have reactions, we get resentful, we do something, we make some kind of a plan, we adopt a belief. This is why I say it's so important to get rid of all of your fear-based beliefs. Because every time that you invest in a fear-based belief, again, let's say you believe, people hate this, so I'm going to use it. You believe in evil archons are trying to steal your soul. Every time that you say to yourself, the archon's this, the archon's that, you invest in that belief. Every time you put energy and thought and investment into that belief, it creates a pattern that gets stuck in your past, which then creates a debt, which you must have to repay in the future. This is why I say you create your own universe. So your universe may be filled with all of these things. There may be a secret cabal of people or entities or beings who are trying to keep us trapped. This may be real. But if you invest in it and you keep investing in that belief, you then reestablish their existence in your past, which creates a future that you must live out, which means you're going to have to live out that fear. You're going to have to live out the problem, the captivity, the victimhood, the effort that you put into trying to avoid paying taxes or trying to avoid, you're guaranteed you're going to end up having to deal with that later on in some level or other. Now, you can see it in other people. You can see it in other people who are afraid and we would say they're neurotic and they create all the chaos in their life. We can see it in others, but we can't see it in ourselves. So this is weird. What we're talking about is weird. So the lesson here is that whatever happens on the other side when you die is no different than what happens here and now. And so the whole point of the here and now is to learn how to avoid all of those pitfalls, so that when you die, you won't have to deal with it. You won't have to worry about, am I going to get trapped? Am I going to get deceived? Am I going to be thrown into hell, meaning the Christian hell? You don't have to worry about that. And as it so happens, the Book of the Dead tells us that, but not in so many words. So we're going to go ahead and take a look at that. But before we do that, I'm going to check and see if there are any people online. And if there are any questions. Wow, we've got 30 people on here. Again, the best way to interact with me is to ask a question. If you ask a question, I will be able to answer it. If you have something you want to say, I have to scroll through it and find the questions. So let's see. All right. Natalia Lokia says, good day, teacher. As always, such an incredibly pivotal teaching for me. Question. Have you mentioned going to Helheimer before on a journey? How did you perceive Mother Hela when you arrived? I have mentioned going to the underworld, which our ancestors called Hell or Hellhome. And I did interact with Mother Hela. The way it happened is that in waking consciousness, for whatever reason, probably it wasn't my idea, it was probably hers, I felt a strong desire to communicate with her. I wanted to understand what the underworld was, and I wanted to understand what happened to the soul, and I honestly don't know what I wanted. And so I said, in waking consciousness, I don't remember if I was meditating or doing a ritual or if I just said it to her out loud. I asked for her to show me. I asked for her to communicate with me. And sure enough, I had a dream one night as I was sleeping, and I went to the underworld. Now, I did not have that I can remember, I did not have a visual experience of her. So I didn't see her in the symbolic way that we have, which I absolutely believe in, which is she's half corpse and half human. Which means that, and the same thing with Kali. Kali is the same way, the goddess of death. People call her that mistakenly. Kali is this fierce form with skulls and blood coming out of her mouth and a horrible face and all that. And that's because she's Saturn, the planet Saturn, which is your karma. If you are attached to your fears, attached to anything, then when she comes to liberate you, she looks like this horrible goddess of death, and it's very frightening. But if you see her if you are not attached, then what you see coming towards you is this beautiful woman who's coming to give you love. Same thing is true with Mother Hela, in my experience, is that the symbolism of her being half corpse and half young woman. Why does bride come to mind? I don't know. But a young woman is that same thing. If you are attached to your fears, or you're attached to your illusions, or you're attached to anything that is illusory, when she comes to take you to the underworld, you will see her as this horrifying corpse, because she is simply reflecting back to you the decay. Because when you hold on to something, it starts to decay. And so we hold on to these things that are decaying. I'm living through this. I really am, because it's been 45 days, I think, since my spiritual wife passed away. And so I've been making a very slow move. You guys heard me talk about, I was very sad. You saw that. And I was very fatigued. I could barely function. And right before she passed, I had found my ultimate apartment, which I'm in now, on the beach. And so I had to make a very slow move. And it was horrifically frightening and painful, because I didn't want to leave that other place, because that's where she and I spent so much time together. And I was really frightened. I mean, scared out of my mind to come here to this place, because I didn't realize, I didn't know all what my feelings were, but looking back on it, because it represented letting go of her. Now it's getting to the point where it's been long enough, I can let go of her in that physical form, and now I'm reconnecting with her in her new form, which is she's moved on, and she's transformed into, her true self, her true spiritual self. And now that old place feels stale. That old apartment feels stale. And every now and then, almost on a daily basis, I go and I bring something back. And it's me, it's very symbolic of me making the transition of letting go into my new life. And so this is what happens when we hold on to things. When we hold on to things, they start to rot. So when Mother Hela comes to you, whether in the body or after you expire, then what that means is that she is simply reflecting back to you the things that you're holding on to. And if you see her as a corpse, it's because you're holding on to decaying, stuff that's dying and decaying, and there's no life left to it. But if you have let go, she will become a young, beautiful, I don't know why bride keeps coming to mind, but a young, beautiful woman. So how I perceived her was more of an essence, and I knew the way I perceived her was, the best word I can describe it is emptiness. And what I mean by that is that there was no discernible emotion, there was no discernible intent, there was no discernible agenda. She just was there, but there was this emptiness about her, like the emptiness of Ginnungagap. And so it was quite an unsettling experience. And if I can put it into terms, the best way I saw it is that she took me to the edge of human existence, both in a spiritual and physical sense. And there was sort of like this wall, and it really wasn't a wall, it was sort of like this barrier. And I could see on the other side, like the barrier was clear. And on the other side, I could see this blackness that was there. And I don't know if I actually went through that to the other side, or if it's just something that I felt, but I felt that she was that barrier. And that, that barrier would reflect back. And it was like, I felt like I was being brought into sort of like a chamber. And that everybody has an opportunity, if they need to go to these chambers on the border of human conscious awareness, which again, there are all kinds of consciousnesses out there, and there's all kinds of realms out there, and there are some realms that the human soul just simply can't go, because we would lose cohesion. And I felt like I was on the barrier of that, and she in fact was that barrier that was surrounding and protecting all of human consciousness, both living and dead. And that as you got closer and closer to that barrier, that barrier could reflect back to you. So this is why when people die, they end up going to these realms, and they're really just reflecting off of that barrier, which is Mother Hela. They're reflecting back, you know, the beauty of heaven, or the beauty of, you know, whatever it is, the Elysian fields. You know, for me, I might, you know, create some surfing paradise, and I'll see then, you know, a huge ocean. It's just a reflection off of the edge of Mother Hela. She just reflects it back to you. And so when you can get to the place where you can see through that, meaning you're not projecting anything that's bouncing off of her, then you see that there's this emptiness there, and that's a really scary feeling. But the feeling I had, again, was that she was surrounding and protecting us, and that she prevented us from passing through into that emptiness because she loved us so much. And the thing that really struck me was that, you know, if you go to one of these, you know, little rooms within her, the underworld, no matter what you create, no matter how horrific it is, she won't judge it. If you create a horrific hell of punishment, you know, demons destroying you and, you know, eating your guts out, or, you know, you pick it, aliens, demons, archons, whatever it is, she's not going to try and stop any of that. She's going to let you project whatever it is, because you got to get it out. This is all you. This is all your mistaken understanding of how the universe works. And she has no judgment. She's the only being in the universe that has no judgment and no agenda. You know, Thor has an agenda. He has an agenda to protect us, right? Woden has an agenda to bring you to the ultimate awareness of yourself. So when you deal with deities, you're dealing with their agenda for you. Hela has no agenda other than for you to release it all and be completely liberated. And so when you get to that place of complete liberation, then you face this emptiness of pure Ganunga gap, which is pure potential. So it was a very unsettling experience. It wasn't something that I would volunteer to do again. I would be happy if it happened again, but it's, you know, nothing that I need to go. I like my life. I like living. I still have an agenda. I want to surf. I have all other kinds of agendas. I still want love. I still want happiness. I still want health. I still want all this stuff. These are all this is all my game. This is why we call it the Matrix. It's my game. So anyway, that was my answer, and all this is very practically relevant to what we're going to be talking about when we go forward. Okay, so let me see. Again, the best way to interact with me is to leave a question, not a comment, but because then I don't have to scroll through it all. All right, so as I said, here now I'm going to scroll through everybody's comments and communicating with each other, which of course is, I'm glad you guys have a community. I like that. All right, Cosmo Joe, question. In your opinion, isn't the Book of Dead just an effort to achieve a more favorable incarnation? I think you mean where, as freedom from reincarnation, death involves salvation of the soul like golden flower. In my opinion, isn't the Book of the Dead just an effort to achieve a more favorable? That is what the Book of the Dead is. That's not my opinion. That is what the Book of the Dead is. The Book of the Dead is a manual for when somebody dies, people get around and they chant this book, which is you're giving out verbal instructions to the soul, because the idea is that the soul hangs around, especially for the first 3 days, but it will hang around for perhaps 40 days or more. I mean, it can hang around for a lot longer than that, but it's going to hang around for at least the first 3 days, and those 3 days you read this book, and then ideally you chant it continuously for 40 days. Because again, what do I say? When you get a reading from me, what do I tell you? You have to do your ritual for 40 days, because it takes a minimum of 40 days for the unconscious to release an old pattern or mistaken assumption or belief. It's the soul. That's what the soul does. That's why 40 days is everywhere. 40 days and 40 nights, you mourn for 40 days. It's not just the Book of the Dead. It's not just, you know, the Bible. It says that. It's all over the world. We understand that. It takes about 40 days. So what happens is that people are chanting and they're telling the soul that has left instructions on what to do to achieve enlightenment. Now, the assumption is that the soul probably isn't advanced enough, which I'm going to say is nonsense. You can achieve enlightenment at any given point. If you choose not to be enlightened, it's your choice. And it's not because you're not smart enough or not evolved enough or not spiritual enough. But the assumption is that most souls aren't there yet, so you have to give them these directions, like they're in this maze and they don't know where they're going, and they're hearing like people chanting and giving directions, and if they listen, they'll go turn left, turn right. That's what the Book of the Dead is, and ideally, yeah, it's so that they can achieve a more favorable incarnation. But again, incarnation is your choice. This is what I want to share with you. I really love the idea, and I'll share even more deeply about the symbolism of it. But you don't need it. I'm going to repeat this throughout. You don't need it. What my friend said to me when she said, I really want you to read this and talk with me about it, is that she had this belief that once you die, that you'll get lost, and it's really important that people tell you where to go. And so, you know, my first instinct, of course, wasn't, you know, that's not how I look at things. But when I read it, it's like, yeah, this isn't about that. It can be used that way, absolutely, but that's not really what it's saying. And even if the people who wrote it believed that that's why it was being written, that's not the message. The true message underneath it is, this is how you live life now. This is how you get through the now. Because if you can get this, what I call the soul desire, that's what the shamanic secret to a perfect life is all about. You can use that. You could use that. If somebody died and you read, I'm not kidding you, if you took my book, The Shamanic Secret to Living a Perfect Life, and somebody died, and you read that to them 40 days, that would be equivalent. That would accomplish the same thing. Because when you connect to your soul, and you know what your true soul desire is from one moment to the next, you will always make the right choice, whether you're in the body or out of it. So that's the whole point of this. The Book of the Dead is great, but no, the assumption behind it is symbolic at best and a mistake at worst, which of course I don't look at it that way. I do acknowledge it. And I'm going to show you. It teaches you the stuff I've been teaching you this whole time. And this again shows you, look, I'm very practical. I never take anything at face value. I never take any book at face value. I never take any belief or any spiritual practice at face value. I always prove it. So if somebody's going to talk to me about, you know, if you do certain moves and this and that, you can create all kinds of energy, I'm going to want to prove it. There's all kinds of stuff out there that you can say, oh, I'm connecting to all this energy, but there's no way to prove it. That's why I do internal martial arts. Because internal martial arts says, yeah, you want to tap into chi, and you say you're going to be able to do something with this power that isn't normal. Well, I'm going to have to sit there and train with people and spar and see, yeah, boom, you barely touched that guy and he flew across the room, or you barely touched him and he crumpled down. That's not something you make up. That really happens. Same thing with this kind of stuff. I never teach anything that you can't put into your life. I have no interest in saying, read this book, believe this, this is the truth. If you can't take it and practically apply it, it's worthless. It's worthless. Okay? So I'm going to show you how to take the Book of the Dead and make it valuable to you, because I do believe that it has value. So, all right, I think I answered your question there. Natalia Lokia, okay, no, so that's you guys talking to each other there. Okay, talking about Taoist versus this and that and the other thing. All right. You guys can talk about that. I'll talk about what my thing is. Okay, so let's see. Where I need to grab this thing and scroll down. PD in Jersey question, what's the difference between archons and reptilians? I have no idea, nor do I care. Archons are supposed to be false beings of light. Archon, I think, means ruler of some kind. So they're these rulers who present themselves as false beings of light, and then you can pick whichever fear-based belief system, which will tell you they drive you back into your body so they can suck the life out of you or whatever. Reptilians are beings that are reptilian in nature, and I'm going to tell you something you may not know. If you live in a universe where reptilians exist out in space or on this plane of existence, they are merely simply being created by you, because the reptilians live in your reptilian brainstem. And if you are projecting them out into the world, they're coming from you. So archons and reptilians are beings who you perceive as in control of you. I'm not saying they don't exist. Don't get me wrong. We live in a holographic universe. Things can be this and not be this at the same time. They can exist and not exist at the same time. They can literally exist and come and touch you and physically pull you into their realm or move things around. They can exist. So I'm not saying that these things aren't real. I'm just saying what you're not understanding is that you have the power to decide whether or not you, number one, they can affect you, and number two, if you want them to exist. They don't exist in my world. And in fact, I can tell you from experience, when these kinds of entities, if I go a place where they are, they leave, they run away from me, because they know that just because I have the belief and the knowledge and the experience to know that they are either mine or somebody else's projection, that if they stay around me long enough, they will be vaporized, simply because they can't live in my sphere. Now that may sound like I'm bragging, but you can do the exact same thing. It starts with the first rule that I teach you, which is get rid of every fear-based belief system. Just get rid of it. And you can still be afraid. It's okay to be afraid. But don't buy into the fear. And don't buy into the belief systems that keep you trapped in fear. Okay? All right. Moving on. Which version of the Book of the Dead? Well, I'm not going to be reading from any version. I'm going to be reading when I get to the reading. I'm just going to be reading a basic overview, you know, a layman style overview. So I'm not going to get into that. Like I said, I'm not a Buddhist. In the beginning, I'm not a Buddhist. I have no interest in trying to pretend I'm a Buddhist or know anything about it. Okay, Rousseau van Royen question. Can you speak in depth on the Northeast and connection to Asgard? What does this mean? The Northeast. So for those of you who are new to my channel, my teaching, we use at thunderwizard.com, I teach you how to use something called a thunder wheel, which is this. You can call it a medicine wheel, you can call it a bagua, you can call it an Eyjolfur. Here's an Eyjolfur, which is nothing more than a thunder wheel. You can call it whatever you want. The 8 directions, the 9 worlds, the center being the 9th, you are able to use this to navigate the 9 worlds of the world tree. You are able to connect to the realms and the beings who live in the other 8 worlds that surround us. And you can also connect to the different energies and elements. I go into all of that at thunderwizard.com. You can also use it for rune readings. I use the rune wheel here. And we talk a lot about that in, do I have it here, in this video and book. Okay, and we also talk about it in the thunderwizard.com shamanism training, which you can sign up for, by the way, for 25 bucks a month down at thunderwizard.com. There's tons of videos there. I put an average about 1 a week, a new one on there. And by the way, that is the best way to support this channel. I want to get, to begin with, I will be happy when, well, I don't know if I'll be happy, but my first goal is to get a minimum of 250 subscribers at the $25 level, so we can get more and more people. By the way, while I'm on the subject, I am in the midst of creating a certification system for Vedic astrology, not in general, but the Vedic readings that I do. Bear in mind, Vedic astrology is a huge science. I'm just barely scratching the surface. I think I've got a pretty good handle on the stuff that I teach in my readings, but there's a ton of stuff out there to learn. Having said that, I am, as you can see, it's hard to, now it's getting hard to get appointments with me because I'm doing a lot of readings. People are buying a lot of readings. So what I want to do is create a certification system where I can teach people my method of doing readings, and then at some point I'm going to certify people to take the overflow for me. If things continue the way they are going, I simply won't have time to do work with my apprentices and do all of the readings. So what I'm going to do is I'll have people, there'll be a level of apprenticeship where you can just take it and learn it and go do what you want with it. And then there will be a higher level which will be, you will actually be certified by me to do readings, and so what will happen is when I have an overflow of readings more than I can handle, then I will farm it out to you guys, and you guys will earn, you know, I'll take a small percentage of it, and then you guys can earn the most of it. So I'm in the midst of doing that as well. So necessity is the mother of invention, so people have been asking me, when am I going to blah, blah, blah. So now I'm finally getting busy enough where I have to start doing that. So just keep your eyes on that. I'm going to introduce that probably before the end of the month, I hope, but definitely by the 1st of January. So anyway, I have no idea where I was, because that got me onto that subject. All right. So the Northeast. The Northeast is the realm of the highest ether in every tradition. In the Vedic tradition, it is the realm of ether. It is the realm of Shiva, Ishana Shiva, the highest awareness. It is in the Taoist tradition. It is also the realm of the highest energy. It's the realm of the gods. So it's the realm of, it's called Asgard. It is the only, there's only 2 words that are called Gard, which means fortress. It's where we get our word yard. When you say my backyard, it really means your back fortress, because you have a fence around it. You're protecting it, and other people can't come in. Asgard is the Os yard. The Os are the celestial deities, and the enclosure, the fortress, is called Os yard, which is where all of the gods live. So, you know, you asked me to talk about it again. I don't know what your specific question is, but that's also, by the way, called a demon door in Taoism. There are 2 demon doors. There's one in the Northeast and there's one in the Southwest. And the reason for that is that when you get too righteous, which a lot of people do, the fundamentalists, they are connected to Asgard, but they get so out of balance that they create a demon door, which is your fears and your bigotry and your rules and all the stuff connected to fundamentalism can create a back door to the underworld. Because that's what I see. If you go far enough into Asgard, you're going to find a back door into the underworld, because they're right across from each other. They're right across. Let me see. Let me get that out there again so you can see where the worlds are. I think they're right here. So you can see it goes diagonally from northeast to southwest, right? Take a look at that again, from northeast to southwest. And so when people are not in their highest awareness, but they're really super righteous and they're really into the gods, and I follow the gods, that's why you have so many, you know, people who worship Odin are racists. That's why. It's because they are so tweaked and so out of balance, and you know, in that yes, they are focused on the realm of the gods, but they don't have a balance, and so it opens up a back door. This is why the Vedics always recommended putting an altar in the northeast, because the northeast is the realm of the highest gods, and when you worship them in that way, that protects you. That altar creates a barrier so that you don't have any unconscious backdoor demons come through. The demons are your own demons. They're your own fears. They're your own prejudices. They're your own misunderstandings. And the other demon door is the southwest, for obvious reasons, because the southwest is the underworld. And when we have unconscious issues come up, that is where they come out. That's when we create demons and ghosts, they come out of there. Okay? So I hope I answered your question. But all that stuff, again, is taught in the books. Go on to michaelwilliamdenney.com. You'll see my books. And it's taught in thunderwizard.com as well. Yep, the thunder wheel is, again, the 8-spoke Dharma wheel. There's a reason why we have these things. There's stuff in African traditions as well. It's everywhere. This is a universal construct. I didn't make it up. I just put it into a form that I think modern Westerners can understand. Okay, so let's see here. Susie Yoten's wife. Is the thunder wheel and runic placements your design? Do I care if people get it tattooed? I don't care, but I sure as hell wouldn't do it. Why would you do that? I mean, obviously I can see why you do that because it looks kind of cool, but people who put runes on their body, I mean, unless you've been dragged through hell and you've mastered that rune, I wouldn't do it. People who tattoo thurisas on them, especially racists, you know, racists out there who put the filfot, the swastika, or put thurisas on them or any of the other runes, and they do it with racist intent, they are begging the universe to teach them either in this life or the next life about what it's like to be racially targeted. So just be careful. I wouldn't do that. Again, let's see. What was it? Susie Yoten's wife. I would highly recommend that you study my material. So again, anybody's welcome to come onto my channel. But just know that the videos here that I do on the channel, especially these question and answers, they're just here to sort of fill in the blanks. The work is in the books. The work is in the videos. The work is in the teaching. The work is in working with me. Susie Yoten's wife, you need to be working with me. You need to go deeper, and you need to get out of some of this. That's just my opinion. You need to do whatever the heck you want to do. That's just my opinion. Anyway, but no, you can do whatever you want. It's not my job to tell you what to do. I don't recommend it. I don't think it's a good idea. Unless you really know why you're doing it and what you're doing it for. Otherwise, you're asking, you know, maybe this is just the way the runes work with me. You know, this is why I don't mess around with bind runes. I don't. I mean, a lot of people do it, and I know it's a real magical practice, but I don't mess around with bind runes because I don't. The power of the runes are far beyond my understanding. When I do the teaching on the runes, like when I went through in the thunderwizard.com, I went through talking, you know, an hour-long video for each of the runes. I took myself on this total transformation, and after I was part of the way through, I already knew that it was going to happen, but I'd already committed to it. And holy crap, what the runes did to me. So I have a tremendous respect for the runes, and I don't play around with them. Having said that, I also know that the universe can be very forgiving. But once you know, then you're responsible for what you know. Okay, so let's see here. Sabrina the Shamanista, what's your take on mummifying the dead versus burning the dead? I don't have a lot of opinion. I have a personal preference for burning because, you know, the body is just the body. And, you know, look, it's just a corpse. So why not just burn it up and move on to the next one? And it's helpful for the soul as well because, you know, if you keep it, if the soul is attached to that physical aspect of itself, then it may become a ghost and get diluted. And so, you know, that's why, you know, people did all these rituals and they burned the body, because you can bet that the soul is standing there watching its body being burned going, wow, that's not me anymore. What do I do now? It's helpful. Helps them let go. Transition to stargates. I don't know what you mean by that. I probably wouldn't buy into whatever the Stargate thing is connected to, but I don't know enough about it to say. So that's Sabrina's asking me, does burning the dead help in the transition to Stargates? It just helps the soul. You know, Stargates, Schmargates, they exist, maybe they don't, I don't know. You create it anyway, whatever it is, you've created it. If there are Stargates, it's because you needed them. Okay, again, PD in Jersey question, what's the difference between archons? Oh, I already answered that. Which version of the Book of the Dead? Northeast. Chris Monet question, would you direct me to your most in-depth video on Odin, please? Anybody have an idea? Can answer the question for him? I don't know what my most in-depth video on Odin is. You know, a great book, or you can go to the playlist for Odin Says Jesus Was a Coward. Maybe that's the best way to look at it, because I tell you what Odin said to me about a lot of things. So that's probably the best one. That book, and I think I have a playlist where I talk about that. Odin Says Jesus Was a Coward. Okay, Chris Monet. Okay, no, Thunder. Again, looking for the questions. Here we go. And as I'm slowly scrolling, somebody will put a thing in and it'll bounce up and I have to go back. Isn't life difficult? Okay, again, looking for the questions. Tamu Ngina question. Do you know if it matters of what material you fashion runes from, wood or clay? People have different ideas of that. They were traditionally made out of wood, but that's because that's all they had. You know, you could put it into stone, I guess. But you know, listen, I use these cards when I do readings. These are plastic paper cards with runes on them. They work no matter what. They're symbols, and what really matters is what you connect to. So if you really want to, if in doubt, just go back to the traditional, which is to use little carved squares of wood, which used to be the bark of trees. They used to scrape off the bark of trees and then cut them into squares and use those. They did that for thousands of years. Okay. All right, let's see. Somebody likes my shirt design. I do too, thank you. All right, that's it. I don't see any more questions, so I'm going to continue on with the teaching. We'll take a little bit of a break here. So I'm going to go ahead and play the what we did, because I put so much effort into these things, which again will show you where you can go if you want other resources that I provide. So I'll be back in about a minute 20. Okay, so I think it took a little longer than I expected, but I'm back here. So, by the way, I mentioned Odin says Jesus was a coward. I'm going to see if I have a picture of that book up here somewhere. I might not. Maybe this is it right here. That, so far, is my most in-depth book on Odin. I don't have one specifically about him. Maybe someday I will ask him to help me with that, if that's something he wants to do. Okay, so I'll check and see if there's any questions, and then I'll move on with the teaching here. Okay. All right. So I don't see any more questions, so let's move on. All right. So again, Book of the Dead. Let's just get into it. As I said, I'm not going to be reading from the Book of the Dead. I'm not trying to do a treatise on the Book of the Dead. I just simply want to share with you in layman's terms the little tiny bit that I've known about it and what I see. So here's what I'm reading here. The Tibetan Book of the Dead, whose actual title is The Great Liberation Upon Hearing in the Intermediate State. So we're talking about death. Death is a state of being in between states. It's not that you're in a state of in between states, it's that your mind, you are in a state of awareness that's, you have this feeling that you're in between states. That's your experience. Again, my teaching about all of this is that it doesn't matter whether you're alive, whether you're dead, whether you're a spirit, or whatever it is. Everything is the same. And you don't have to wait until after you die to figure this stuff out. In fact, if you do, you'll be in this, if you're confused now, you'll be just as confused later. The things that souls go through after death are the same things you go through in life. The soul goes, this life is no different. It's another dream. They're all dream states. This is one dream state. Okay? So you might as, but the thing is that your soul is infinite and your soul is what's real. And when your soul gets aligned, it doesn't matter what reality you're in. You will always know what your next step is. So that's why these things like the Tibetan Book of the Dead, there's an assumption behind it, which is that the soul doesn't know what it's doing. That may be true. But there's no difference. And you know, what I say, if you read somebody the same thing of the Shamanic Secret to A Perfect Life, if you read that for 40 days, that's going to tell the soul what to do the same way that this is going to do that. So, but this is a great way to study what I think has a lot to say about what we already teach in terms of what I call shamanism. Okay, so the Tibetan Book of the Dead is a guide that is read aloud to the dead while they are in the state between death and reincarnation. There's an assumption. Remember, I say everything has an assumption. This is the Tibetan Buddhist assumption that I'm reading from this. There's an assumption. You're either enlightened or you're stuck in reincarnation. And so there's this negative aspect to it. But I say it doesn't matter. Remember, I shared with you that there was an account of somebody who claimed to have a near-death experience, and when they left the body, they had the same experience I did, and there's this light, and you start being pulled toward the light. And he realized, he said, wait, stop. And it stopped. And then he could talk to the light, and then he realized he had control over the entire experience. So this idea that we're trapped in something, that is an assumption. So I'm giving you now, you know, you can choose to let go of that assumption. And depending on how aligned you are with your soul, that's how much control you'll have when it's all said and done. You can decide whatever you want to do. It's just like lucid dreaming. That's what lucid dreaming is about. The practice of lucid dreaming is to make you aware that it's your dream and you can decide to change it. So the whole point of lucid dreaming isn't to have fun and to learn how to, you know, manifest supermodels and, you know, all that kind of stuff. It's that, well, if you want to do that, go ahead. It's that you give yourself the knowledge that in this life, you can say, stop. Here's what I want to have happen. And as long as you're aligned to yourself, you will have that ability. If you're trapped in your fears or your illusions or your obsessions, then you won't have control over it. So that's what this is all about. This is what the main thing I'm trying to teach you guys. The whole point of all this stuff, the thunder wheel, all of it, as fun and beautiful and amazing and wonderful as it is, it's all about having control of being able to follow your true path, being able to be in the flow with the infinite. Okay, now, as I keep reading here, somebody's going to say what I just said. The Tibetan Book of the Dead teaches that once awareness is freed from the body, it creates its own reality as one would experience in a dream. This dream occurs in various phases, which they call bardos, in ways both wonderful and terrifying. Overwhelming, peaceful, and wrathful visions and deities appear. Since the deceased awareness is in confusion, assumption, I don't know if they're confused or not. This is an assumption that most people aren't spiritual enough, and it's probably true. Most people aren't aware. It's not spirituality. See, when we do things within a religious context, and Buddhism is a religion, it starts to take on, whether they mean it or not, it starts to take on spiritual and not spiritual, more spiritual and less spiritual. It's all nonsense. You're either connected to what you want or you're not. That's the level of, it's all about whether or not you're experiencing your joy. And we'll see this as we go further. Okay. Since the deceased's awareness is in confusion of no longer being connected to a physical body, it needs help and guidance in order that enlightenment and liberation occurs. The Tibetan Book of the Dead teaches how we can attain nirvana, enlightenment, by recognizing the heavenly realms instead of entering into the lower realms where the cycle of birth and rebirth continue. Another assumption, which I'm not saying isn't true, but to say that these realms actually exist. If you assume that they actually exist and you are forced to choose between different realms, then that is what you will create. But all of these realms are within you. This is what, going back to now I know why somebody asked me about Mother Hella, is that you create it, that you're in your own unconscious in one of those little rooms, and what's being reflected back, like in you know, the holodeck, you know, the Star Trek holodeck. You know, you create a holodeck and you end up walking around for miles and miles and up, and you're really just inside the holodeck. You're not going anywhere. You just think you are. Same thing here. That's what Mother Hella showed me, and that's what's happening here. People, when you die, the only thing that happens is that you will be confronted with your own unconscious. If your unconscious is clear, then you won't have to deal with any of this stuff. If it's unclear, then you will. But it means if you're dealing with visions of heaven or visions of hell, that's your experience that you're manifesting for yourself, whether you're in the body or outside of it. Okay, I think I beat that horse to death and rebirth here. All right, so let's talk about the first bardo, the first realm. Now, this is something I have experienced in this life. I talked about my vision where I dreamt I was pulled out of my body and I saw what I thought at the time was Jesus. And it was this incredible light, this amazingly bright, brilliant. The light, the intensity of this light was so intense, I knew that if I was in my physical body, it would have burned my skin off, which meant it would have burned away illusion. I knew that my eyes would have burned out of my head. But at the same time, there was this intense bliss that I was encompassed in, and then I was released and put back into my body. So it's exactly what I've heard people talk about when they talk about near-death experiences. So that's what they're saying here. First bardo comes at the very moment of death where there dawns the clear light of the ultimate reality. This is the very content and substance of the state of liberation. If only the soul can recognize it and act in a way to remain in that state. So that means, I don't care how spiritual or unspiritual you are, when you die, when you see that, you will see the limitless intensity of your soul. It's your soul you're looking at. That was my soul that I felt myself being surrounded by. It's your soul. And when you're aware of that and you're in line with it, which is why, again, the book, follow, you know, the secret shamanic path to whatever the hell I said, living a perfect life. It's all about getting connected to the joy of your soul and following that. If you learn how to do that, then when you die, you go, oh, there it is. You'll go right to it. See what I mean? It doesn't matter. So, you know, everything is a choice. That's what I'm here to tell you. Nothing happens by chance, but the assumption that things happen to you, again, is something that I guess we need. You know, we need to do that, so we allow ourselves to experience things that way. All right, so if the soul can recognize it and act in a way to remain in that state, act in a way, that's what I teach you how to do. Take action on your soul desire regardless of what demons are coming at you or what life experiences are coming at you to tell you, you can't do it, you're not supposed to do it. It's the same kind of thing. It's the same thing as when the soul goes and sees demons of hell, same kind of thing. So you choose to take action towards your true spiritual path, your true joy, regardless of what anybody says, and stay there. Take action to stay there. That's what life is all about, in my opinion. Okay. The instructions intended to be read at the moment of the person's death are designed to help him do this. So that does start off with the assumption that any soul can stay there. And here, it's you. Just stay where you are. Don't worry about it. You are everything. And then if the soul is able to hear that and do that, then they can achieve awareness. He is told, first of all, to embrace this spiritual experience not in a selfish and egoistic way, but rather with love and compassion for all sentient beings. That's because you are everything. Your soul is connected. We know this now in physics, there's that non-localized reality, that it's an illusion that here and there exist. Everything is together. We really are all one. And that's why, again, to take it practically, there's never going to be a choice where you have to make a decision between following what gives you joy and what helps other people. You'll never be put in a position to go, gosh, I really want to do this, but if I do that, that's going to hurt them. That doesn't exist. Whenever you follow your true joy, regardless of what anybody says around you about, no, you're going to destroy my life, and no, blah, 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 there's no truth to that. Whenever you follow your true joy, you help everything. So, it's talking here about love and compassion for all beings, as though that's outside of you. It's not. You start with loving yourself completely, and you already love everything. That's why people who are happy and joyful, they treat everybody else with happiness and joy. That's why people who are afraid are always looking for bots. If I put it in the term of people, who are bots and who are really people? Who are the soul players and who are the bots? That's your own fear. You project that onto yourself because you feel like maybe you're not quite. Maybe you're a bot, right? So anyway, let's keep going. So we're still just in the first bardo. But with love and compassion for all sentient beings, this will aid him in the second step, which is to realize that his own mind and self is identical with the clear light, which is what I just got through saying to you as well. So see, it will tell you that, but maybe this is a little more user-friendly. It helps people slowly get into the deep end of the pool. You first have to see everything is outside of you, and then you can go deeper and see that it's not. Realize that his own mind and self is identical with the clear light, implying that he is the ultimate reality, the all-good Buddha, transcending time, eternity, and all creation. If he can recognize this, meaning the soul that is past, while in this supreme state at the moment of death, he will attain liberation. That is, he will remain in the clear light forever. This condition is called the Dharmakaya, the highest spiritual body of the Buddha. Now, what we're going to find out later is that what this is talking about is the three selves that I share with you. I share that we have a higher self, a lower self, and a middle self. They're talking about the higher self. So what this means is that when you die, what you first experience is your higher self. Your higher self is waiting there for you, saying, here, I'm you, this is who you are. If you want, you can just jump right to the end. And it's all about what you project back. So if you project back like I did, which is probably what put me back into my body now that I think about it. My first experience was that this was really blissful. I was home, but it was so intense. And it was almost too intense. I mean, I didn't want to leave it, but it felt like it was a little too intense. And that's probably what brought me back. I reflected that, and I needed to be back here because I wasn't ready to completely be in ultimate bliss. It was just a little too much. I wanted just enough to get a taste of it, but it wasn't complete. There was stuff I had to deal with. So that's what we come back for. We have stuff we want to deal with. So what that really means is that I chose to come back. That had I, in that dream, had I chosen to stay there, I could have stayed there. So, okay, yeah. All right, so most souls, however, will fail to do this. Again, that's an assumption. While there might be some truth to that, I'm not going to buy into that. That's, again, I'm not reading from the Book of the Dead. This is this guy's opinion based on his religious understanding of Buddhism. Most souls, however, will fail to do this. They will be pulled, listen to this, they will be pulled down by the weight of their karma into the second stage of the first bardo. See, that sounds like you don't have any control. You're not being pulled down. You choose to go down. You feel like you're being pulled down, but that's the game you play with yourself so you can justify going back into limitation and experiencing things and learning how to achieve your desires. Oh, I'm getting pulled down. Karma is pulling me down. No, it's not. You chose to do that. But you feel as though you're being pulled down. Now, this is going into the second self. So it's going from the higher self to the middle self. What this guy is calling the secondary clear light, seen immediately after death. At this point, there are separate instructions now to be read according to the spiritual condition. See, according to the spiritual condition. So now we're again, for the Buddhists out there, I hope I don't hurt your feelings, but what I see in this is a condescension. It's your choice to be at whatever level you want to be. But if that's where they're at, and then okay, let's get the other one. He's not that advanced. Even though that may not be what's written, where it's coming from, that's what we do with it. Like Christians. I'll pray for you, brother. Don't condescend to me. Take me out for lunch, or give me a pat on the back, or say, attaboy, or you can do it. I'll pray for you. Again, people might have their heart in the right place, but, again, it's a projection. We project onto others our limitations. Which is, by the way, what you need to understand about me, too. Let me once again be clear. I'm just a human being. I'm just doing, they say you learn by teaching. I'm just trying to accomplish my own awareness through my own teaching. I'm really just talking to myself. You guys want to hang around while I try and talk to myself, and if it helps you, great. But don't take anything I say at face value. And please be aware that I'm limited. And learn, this is something I did with my teachers, and I had some very powerful teachers. But at some point I realized that, there's only so much I can learn from these people, and I got to move on. Right now, to this day, there's only one guy that's still my teacher, a guy that I've had for 20-something years. He's still my teacher. He's the longest teacher that I've had. Every other teacher I've had, I end up at some point realizing that there's really nothing more I can gain from this teacher, and I move on. So understand that I'm limited too. And I don't pretend to be anything. Any teacher who claims to be fully enlightened in the body is either lying or deluded. That's my experience. Maybe I'm wrong. That's my experience. Anybody who tells you, if you don't do what I say, if you don't believe what I blah, 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 run away from that person. I strongly encourage people to stay with me through their unconscious resistance. But I'm also unaware that I'm not the ultimate, and sometimes people belong somewhere else. So anyway, moving on. So again, there are separate instructions to be read according to the spiritual condition of the person while in life. For an individual advanced in meditation and other spiritual practices, there is repeated over and over the same instructions as at the moment of death, enjoining him to recognize himself as the Dharmakaya, recognizing himself as the eternal essence of everything, recognizing that you are God. Use whatever word you want to use. For the person who was still at a student level on the spiritual path, so again, here's the assumption. This is the holographic understanding. This is what the Hawaiian shamanism, the Ho'oponopono prayer, I love you, I'm sorry, please forgive me, thank you, is about changing the judgments within yourself about somebody else. Because at any moment, at any time, anybody can achieve everything. Everybody can do it. It doesn't matter how advanced or unadvanced they are. That's an assumption. So I would say if that soul has decided that it's only at the student level, then you meet it at the level it's chosen to be at. But it's not like these are things that can't be changed at a moment's notice. Your life can change at a moment's notice. I can tell you from personal experience that anything can happen like that. Your life can change like that. You can go from nothing to everything, everything to nothing, like that. So it's just a lot more fun to live in that state, even no matter what's happening to you. You can acknowledge what's right in front of you and still be aware that anything can change. The only thing that you have control over that matters is to ask yourself, am I in alignment with my highest self? Am I doing what gives me the greatest joy? Period. End of story. That's it. When you don't know what else to do, ask yourself, what would really give me joy right now? And go do it. Because that's your soul. Get used to being in connection to your soul. Like I said, if you die, plane crashes, or whatever, a stone falls out of the sky and cracks you on the head. If you're in that state of being in your soul, you'll be enlightened immediately. If that's what you want. That's my teaching. Okay. For an individual advanced in meditation and other spiritual practices, there is repeated over and over the same instructions as at the moment of death, enjoining him to recognize himself as the Dharmakaya, infinite God. For a person who is still at the student level on the spiritual path, there is the injunction for him to meditate on his tutelary deity. That would be for those who have gotten a reading from me. That would be your Ishta Devata. That's the planet and or the deity that's associated with the planet that is connected to you on a conscious level. Mine is Venus. And I've chosen now, I'm working with my, well, I'll keep that quiet for now. I work with a Venus goddess. And she is who I work with every moment of the day. What should I do here? This is how I feel. What's going on? That's what you should deal with if you're according to them at that level, because it's this is the Ishta Devata is the power of what connects you to your soul. So if you're not able to see yourself as God, it's saying then deal with your Ishta. Deal with the deity that you talk to all the time, that is your best friend. And that again is just a reflection of you from my perspective. Okay, so there is the injunction for him to meditate on his tutelary deity, that is, the particular God for whom he performed devotional practices while alive. Finally, if the deceased be of the common folk, unpracticed in any spiritual disciplines, that again the judgment there is that they're not that smart, they're not that advanced. The instruction is to meditate upon the great compassionate Lord, which is to say an avatar, which would be Rama, which would be Krishna, which would be Jesus. An avatar worshipped by the multitude. Okay, so that's, again, what now, even though there's all these assumptions in there which I'm making fun of, there's still this understanding under all of it that, maybe one of these tricks is what will help them to wake up to see that they are everything. Because it's always going to be there in front of them. So that's the first one there. What I'm saying here is that this is, first, you're connecting to your higher self, and then it's introducing you to your middle self. So there's a lot more stuff to talk about, but let me see if there are any questions, and I'll answer them if there are any. So, a lot of things popped up since so I have to back up here and scroll. All right, so again, sorry for I'm scrolling through looking for the questions. Sorry about this. Let me get to the question. Do I see any questions? Quick question, Romneon, Germany. What exactly is meant with the land of death? Whatever you want. I just used a word. Doesn't have an exact meaning to it. Just means where you go when you die. That's all. That's all I mean by that. Laura Reed says maybe we're in the realm of the dead now. You're always in the realm of something that you've created. That makes me think, just by reading that without knowing you, that was your sort of Freudian slip about the way you see the world. So you have a negative worldview. You see that this is a horrible place filled with maybe I'm wrong, but there are a lot of people you talk to people, and people will say this is the most amazing place in the world. I'm like that when the sun goes down here and I go surfing or I go to the mountains. I love this world. I hang out with people and I go into cities and I go, oh, humans are disgusting and blah, blah. It's my own projection onto what's in front of me. So you can have that now. Some people do live in the realm of the dead now. Okay, so let's keep going. I don't see any more questions, so I'm going to keep going here. All right, so because I think I'm kind of excited about where this is going to go here. All right, so the second bardo is the second level. So, if the soul is still not liberated at this stage, it will descend into the second bardo, which is said to last for 2 weeks. Second bardo is also divided into 2 parts. First, the soul of the deceased encounters what are referred to as the peaceful deities. On each of the 7 days, this is important, I'm going to explain to you a very important truth here. On each of the 7 days, a particular Buddha being will appear in radiance and glory with a bevy of angelic attendants. At the same time, on each day in turn, there will shine a light from one of the 6 worlds of the Buddhist universe called lokas. All right, can anybody guess what I'm about to say? Nothing is outside of you, everything is inside of you. So if on the first bardo, the person is connecting to their higher self, and then if that doesn't work, they connect to their middle self, which is their soul. If that doesn't work, then what happens? You go to a second stage where you see 7 peaceful deities of light. And then there will be a light that shines from one of the 6 worlds of the Buddhist universe. These are your chakras. If you don't know what chakras really are, please go back. You can go to chakras.thunderwizard.com. I've got a DVD where I teach not only a meditation and a mantra, but I teach you what the 7 chakras really are. I have videos on my channel. You can go on my channel and look for them. By the way, a lot of people I find really don't know how to navigate through YouTube. They're just like sheep, and they just go with whatever points at them. Oh, that one there, oh, that one there. And people say, where do you have a video? If you go to my channel, which is thunderwizard.com, which is spelled D-O-T-C-O-M, Thunderwizard D-O-T-C-O-M, on YouTube, you will find my channel. Now at the top there's a bar where you can type in and you'll see videos all over YouTube. But if you go on the menu there where it says channel and videos and all that, there will be a little magnifying glass. If you click on that magnifying glass, then you can search within my channel. So you can type in chakras, and all of my videos on chakras will come up. So the chakras are different levels of emotional and psychological maturity. And the chakras are directly connected. The chakras aren't out there. The chakras are directly connected to your kundalini, which is a human state. So what this is saying here is that the soul and the higher self are not tied down to the human state. The 7 chakras are. So what this is saying is if somebody can't see themselves in either their higher self or their soul, then that means that they're still in their kundalini, and they're somewhere within dealing with one of the 7 chakras. And the 7 chakras, there's a higher level and a lower level. I'll give you one example, the throat chakra. That's the one that I'm functioning from right now. The throat chakra is the chakra of the hermit. This is the person who's past the heart chakra. The heart chakra is about religion, connecting to other people and seeing God and everybody and follow our path. Buddhism is very much a heart-centered religion. That's why they have mantras about Om Mani Padme Hum, opening up the heart center. The heart center is, I see God in you, I see you everywhere, and then you go to the rest of the world and you say, this is the religion that, Buddhism is like this too. Follow the path of the Buddha. The Buddha has the answer. That's the heart center. It wants to connect with everybody. So when the individual gets past the heart center, then they end up here in the throat center. Throat center is the guy on the mountaintop who meditates and doesn't need the world and blah, 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 but he sees it. But people come to him and he teaches them from the mountaintop, like I'm doing right now. I'm expounding from the mountaintop. But his experience is that he doesn't need that anymore. He's all by himself. It's just him and the universe, him and God. But that's still his ego. When I get past my ego and I've learned this, I won't be teaching anymore. That's a prediction. I don't know if that's going to happen, but I'm still human. So I have to do this. I need to sort of get online and do this. This is part of my soul desire. It's fun for me. But that's me. I'm still trapped in here. I'm not up here yet. So don't think of me as being that. Maybe I'm limiting myself, but I'm having a lot of fun right here. So the negative is that they're very judgmental about those people down there, and they don't know, they're not connected. Who needs religion? On the positive side, they are in a place where they are wanting to and able to freely expound the truth, to speak the truth. That's just one chakra. There's always a positive and a negative. So what this is saying here is that if you don't connect to your higher self and see yourself in the infinite, and then you don't connect to your middle self, which is your soul, and you don't connect and you don't see yourself in your soul, then what happens is then you start to see all of the 7 chakras, and these deities, these wonderful, peaceful deities, are energies that are connected to you, your chakra. So they're really emanations of you. Again, the holographic viewpoint. You go and ask a Hindu, does Ganesha exist? Yes, he exists. Is he really an elephant-headed boy? Oh, yes, absolutely. And he exists and blah, blah, blah. Is he just a symbol of the infinite one God? Oh, yes, he's just a symbol. Well, how can it be both? This is polytheism. This is the difference between modern and ancient polytheism. Ancient polytheism sees things holographically. So there are deities that are connected to each of the 7 chakras. They are very real. They can interact with you, and they're also just you, all at the same time. Okay, so so on each of the 7 days, a particular Buddha being will appear in radiance and glory with a bevy of angelic attendants. At the same time, each day in turn, there will shine a light from one of the 6 worlds of the Buddhist universe called lokas. So what I'm saying here is that, this is my take on it, is that it's the top 6 chakras. Now, instead of seeing the entity of the 7 chakras, you're now going to see the actual chakras themselves. And so you'll be attracted to go to one of these heavens, which means that's the chakra that you're meant to deal with. You notice there's only 6, not 7, because the 7th one would be hell, which would be the lower chakra. So, you know, the peaceful deity is coming to, again, tell you the same thing, that you are everything, that you are God. If that doesn't work, then you will see a light that will want to take you to one of the 6 heavens, which means that you need to go and deal with that chakra and learn and be there. And for you, it will be a heaven. The 7th one, the lower one, the root chakra, is going to be hell, because that's hell in the sense of place of torment, because that's where we're the most, that's the most dense, the most physical. So that's why, in my opinion, only 6 and not 7. You see 7 Buddhas, but you only see 6 lokas. Okay, so let's keep going. I'll see if, again, I haven't completely memorized all this. I looked at it, I glanced at it, and I thought it would be fun. I'm going to read through this and I'm going to tell you what I see. If I don't understand it, I'll tell you. If I see that I contradicted myself, I'll tell you, oh, I was wrong about that. Here's what it says. But let's keep going. Okay, so on the first day of the 2nd Bardo, there appears the soul of the Divine Father Mother. That is the supreme deity of the universe, transcending all dualities, including the division into sexes, Shiva and Shakti. This is, what is his name? There's a name for Shiva where he's fused both masculine and feminine, and it represents the top chakra. On the first day, there appears to be the soul, the Divine Father Mother. That is the supreme deity of the universe, transcending all dualities, including the division into sexes. The next step in the destiny of the soul is determined by his reaction to this God. So again, we're going through the same thing. When the soul sees the higher self, and it says, oh, that's too intense, and then it sees the soul and says, oh, that's too intense, then it sees these 7 deities, and so now it sees the 7th chakra. And if it says, oh, yes, that's me, then that means the person's evolved and is in their highest chakra and will spend some time there before achieving enlightenment or rebirth or whatever it wants. The next step of the soul is determined by his reaction to this God. His life on earth was well lived. Again, the assumption. If his life on earth was well lived, he will now be in a state of purity and grace, and he will enter into the joy of the God and attain liberation. So that's what I just said. So I'm right. We're agreeing so far. If, on the other hand, he has lived an ignoble and impious life, the effects of his bad karma will cause the intense, radiant presence of the God to strike fear and terror in his heart. and he will be drawn instead to the softer light of the Devaloka, or the heaven, which has dawned along with this deity. That's just what I just got through saying. So either the deity itself, which is a reflection, says you can be this. If you see that you are that deity, you can merge and become that deity. If you can't quite do that, then what's going to happen is you're going to want to go to the location, to the actual chakra itself, and be part of that chakra and live inside of the chakra and learn. That's what I'm seeing here. Okay, so he will be drawn instead to the softer light of the heaven, which has dawned along with this deity, or I would say the chakra. This is still a fairly attractive fate for the devas, the gods, or the gods or angels, and their loka, or their realm, is equivalent to the Christian heaven. However, the Buddhist teaching is that even heaven is not the highest spiritual objective, because it is still only a temporary state in the manifest universe. I completely agree. Liberation is believed to be the only and final permanent resting place for the soul as an unmanifest state beyond existence. That's pretty well self-explanatory, and I've shared a lot about that. So, on the second day, there appears the second highest god in the Buddhist pantheon. All right, so I'm going to leave that there for now. We'll come back. I'll do again some. Might have to do this in 2 or 3 installments because it's taken a long time. I'm going to go ahead and do some ads, and then we will come back for any questions. Okay, we're back. So I did see a couple of questions here. Valerie Bradshaw, thank you again. She put a bunch of question marks. That helps me to see that it's a question. Otherwise, I tend to bypass it unless I can see there's a question. Valerie Bradshaw says, what if you are truly confused on what is your highest joy? Well, first, I understand where you're coming from. I completely empathize and sympathize with where you're at. Having said that, I acknowledge the reality of what you're feeling. So with that in mind, I'm going to tell you, you are not confused on what your highest joy is. You just think you are. Again, go to, my best suggestion is to go to this book, and I've got some videos about it too. The Shamanic Secret Commandment to a Perfect Life. I'm not kidding. I know it sounds really egotistical, but that book will have the same effect as reading to the soul the Tibetan Book of the Dead. Maybe it'll be better because if the soul's not Buddhist, it doesn't know what all those things are. But if you simply just read that to somebody after they've died, that will help them. But as I've said, it's not about here or there, death or life. It's about in the moment, in being in the present moment, in the ever unfolding now, asking yourself what truly gives you happiness. So let me explain a little bit about what this is all about. The whole reason that we incarnated, number one, is because there are desires that our soul has not met. We have unfulfilled desires on a soul level. We could go into karmas and lessons and all that, but those are really all secondary. What creates the challenges in our life is when we are going after our soul desire, meaning the thing that gives us the greatest joy. And then what will happen, not what might happen, what will happen, is that throughout your life you will be thrust into situations where you have to make a choice between what truly is your desire or what somebody or something else wants from you. An obvious example is, this was my example. I married. This was, whenever it was, 12 years ago, whatever it was. Well, anyway, I was married to a woman, and she had an agenda of what I should be and what we should be. And in order to make her happy, I had to give up on my the things that gave me the truest joy. And I did that under the auspices of this is what a good person does, this is what a man does, and you can't always get what you want, and and I did all that, and I was miserable, and I made myself sick. And I finally decided, after the marriage started falling apart, because I started going after my true desires, I made the decision that going after my desires was more important than anything else. And in fact, even if it killed me, I was going to do it. And then my life completely changed. For somebody else, it might be a little kid wants to be a musician, and their father is, owns a clothing store and has decided that the little girl is going to be a seamstress and she's going to grow up and take over the store. At some point, that little girl is going to have to decide, do I want to make daddy happy, or do I have to go after what I want? Those are extreme examples. I can guarantee you whatever it is that you think and how people, it's so complicated. You don't understand it's complicated. It's not complicated. It's always that. It's always you going after what truly makes you happy, or doing something that you think you're supposed to do, you're required to do, what somebody else wants you to do, what government wants you to do, what your religion wants you to do, what, even if you just think that's what a practical person does, that's all the same thing. You're doing something for somebody else, even if that somebody else is just a thought in your head. To follow your true path throughout your life, you will constantly bump into that. And every time, if you remember, just go after what gives me true joy, not necessarily putting, shooting drugs into your neck. That's not true joy. It might be fun for about 10 seconds, but that's about it. What gives you true joy, then you will learn to live in that state of being in your soul. And if you're still in the body like I am, it means you haven't perfected it yet. And when I do, I will no longer be here. The same is true with you. So you do know, you just are trapped in the confusion. You are fighting with yourself, and you can't tell the difference right now between what something or somebody else wants from you and what you want for yourself. And that's why I'm here. It doesn't have to be me, but you've got to talk to somebody. You got to talk to somebody who can help you filter through the BS in your mind. The other thing about this is that it sounds like it's really simple, but it's not, because at some point in your existence, you learned that in order to survive, you had to either please God or please your family or please the government or please society. And so your unconscious mind believes that you should be doing this, whatever it is, doing that job you can't stand, or married to that person you can't stand, or whatever the scenario is. You honestly believe on an unconscious level that your survival depends on it. So when you start to take action to go away from that, your unconscious mind will fight you. It will make you sick. It will destroy things. It'll make all kinds of chaos. It'll bring people in your life that'll stop you or talk you out of it. And that's why you need to have somebody who's going to be able to look and mirror back like Hella does. Here's what's really going on with you. Decide what you want to do. So you feel confused, but it's not confusion, it's confliction. You're conflicted between what you want and what you think somebody else wants. And that's why I'm here, and that's why I think, if you want, you can get a session with me, and I can probably help you within one session, but maybe it might take more than that. Anyway, Valerie Bradshaw again, question. My NDE, near-death experience, happened 35 years ago, and I have been unraveling all my ego crap to the point of being neutral almost everything, and I still don't know my joy. So you're not neutral. I don't believe that. I believe you had an NDE. I don't believe that you're neutral and don't know your joy. Don't believe that for a second. The essence of your soul is joy. That's the whole point. When I saw my soul, which I thought was God, what I experienced was ultimate complete bliss, like I've never had, and it was the most real thing. That's how I know when I'm following my true joy. I can feel it because I know what it feels like. Doesn't mean I do it perfectly all the time, but I know what it is. And I do ask myself that same question. When I'm the way it manifests for me is that when I'm having trouble, usually with career or money or something, I stop and I go, what is it I really want? And there are times I go, I don't know what I want. So consciously, it is okay to not know, but you still do know. You're just in conflict. You're afraid and in conflict on a deeper level. And identifying the conflict and taking fearless action, might scare the hell out of you to take action towards your desire. But if you do it, that's when things start to come together. So I don't believe that you're so neutral that you don't know your joy. I don't believe that. I think that's a denial mechanism. That's your unconscious mind creating some denial so that you don't have to deal with it and move on. Let's see here. Yes, Tamu Ngina says Shiva as Ardhanarishvara. So that's one of the names of Shiva. There's another one. That wasn't the name I was thinking of. I'm not familiar with that name, but I believe you. That's one of them. There's one of the names. I wish I could remember what it was. Anyway, I might be thinking of something else. Anyway, let's go. Let's move on. All right. Valerie Bradshaw, question. To love and accept myself, however, is it possible to become too neutral? I don't know what that means. Is it too neutral? That's a judgment. Neutral is neutral. Neutral to means you're not attached. I can do this or I can do that. That's usually the state that you've achieved everything. I don't think that's the case with you based on your previous statement. I don't think you've achieved what you want. But that's what Buddhism is trying to get at, where you're at a place of neutrality. And they talk a lot about bliss too. So, I'm just coming at it from a different angle. So too neutral, I mean, you're either neutral or you're in denial. This is why people take drugs. This is why people drink, because they want to escape their feelings. So the whole, and I'm not saying this is you, this just reminds me of it, but the whole New Age, love and light, everything, just focus on what's beautiful, motherfucker. Everything is great, get out of my way. Everything is beautiful, I just love and light, and these people are, being eaten up by their own pain and misery. They're full of denial. There's nothing spiritual about being in denial. Nothing spiritual about that. In fact, I can't stand being around people like that. Church is a great example. Like going to your Baptist church or a fundamentalist Christian church. Hi, as you're walking into the church. Hi, how are you? Praise the Lord. Or you go to a crazy weird cult. Hi, welcome. Welcome, everybody's welcome. Total denial. Those are people who are full of fear, full of anger, full of regret, and they're trying to spiritualize everything. That's denial. Nothing spiritual about it. Okay, looking for the questions here. And again, I don't know you, Valerie Bradshaw. I'm only going off what I see here, but that's what it sounds like to me. Okay, so Romney on Germany. Question, why do we even incarnate in this world? What's the point of leveling up over and over? I feel some information is missing. Yeah, there is some information missing. Have you read my books? Have you listened to what I've taught you? I teach this all the time. I've just gotten through saying it. The reason why you incarnate is because you chose to come back, because there's something you wanted to experience. The only reason I'm still in this body is that I'm not done surfing yet. I still want to get that out. When I get rid of that, maybe I'll find some other reason to incarnate. You level up, as you put it. There's no leveling up. This is one, let me get rid of this idea, oh, I have to get more spiritual. That's what I was making fun of earlier. The assumption that you're less spiritual and more spiritual. You're either satisfied or you're not. And if you're not satisfied, there's nothing wrong with that. You're probably still having fun. So you're not leveling up. You're just, look, Ramnian Germany, stop overthinking it. Go do what makes you happy. Go do what gives you joy. And when you're done with this life, if you've accomplished everything your soul wanted, you won't have to come back. So let me just tell everybody here, if you want to achieve enlightenment and not be reincarnated, here's how you do it. Go after your soul desire, even though you think it might kill you. Go do the thing that gives you the greatest joy and keep doing that. And when your soul says, yeah, that was it, that's what I wanted, it won't come back. If when you die, you're not going to be worried about what how much money you had, or whether you did this or did that, or how spiritual you were. In fact, you're probably going to go look at spirituality and go, man, that was a waste of time. You're going to go, you know what, I really wanted to do that, and I didn't quite get that. I want to go again. Can I go again? Because I can, and then you'll come back. Stop overthinking it. Okay. Ramnian Germany question. Ascending over and over is the same as following the government here, isn't it? Ramnian Germany, are you one of those people who just comes onto the Q&As? Are you not reading my books? Are you not following? This is what happens. Are you a YouTube junkie? You go from one YouTube channel to another? This stuff on the Q&As is just to fill in the blanks. Go read my books and do what I tell you to do. Outside of that, there's nothing I can help you with. You're overthinking it. And I can tell you're in pain. I can tell you are that you're living in a state of victimhood. This question is filled with a victim mentality. Drop the victim mentality. Take responsibility for your life and go do what you want. Stop complaining. Sorry, not trying to beat you up, but that's the best way I can help you. You know, all this other stuff you're talking about, I feel imprisoned, physical as well as spiritual. What's the point? You are imprisoned. You're imprisoned because you are in conflict with yourself. I can guarantee you that if we get deep enough into it, there's something you want to do and you've made the decision not to do it because you believe the government or your parents or somebody doesn't want you to do that, and you're in conflict with yourself and you're miserable. And you probably need a teacher to help you walk through that, or a counselor or a therapist or a priest or whomever. But go do what you want. That's my, again, I feel for you. I've been there. And I'm not trying to say you have to get it right away. Sometimes it takes a lot of work. But first thing is just go do what you want to do. That's the first step. Okay, I don't see another question. So let's keep going. I'm having fun here. So I'm going to keep going here. Let me see, where was I? So we are at, where was I? I was talking about on the second day. So what did I say here? All right, so no, I got through the first day of the second bardo. On the second day of the second bardo, there appears the second highest god in the Buddhist pantheon, which again I think is directly connected to the second self, because they're the Trinity. Whenever you see Trinity, whether it's Buddhist or whether it's Norse or whether it's Christian or whether it's Hindu, it's the three selves. So on the second day, you will once again connect with an emanation of the soul. Again, I'm walking through this with you. I've looked at it briefly. I'm now going it over again. Maybe I'm wrong, but this is what I think it's talking about. So it appears the second highest god in the Buddhist pantheon, which would be a representation of the soul. In fact, he is the second person in the literal Buddhist Holy Trinity. At the same time, there dawns a smoky light from hell. And here we note that just as the Buddhist heaven is not permanent or eternal, neither is its hell. Even the most wretched souls will eventually work their way out of the deepest pit of the hell, just as even the highest and purest souls will eventually lose their footing in heaven and descend back into the cycle of death and rebirth. Liberation is the only way out. So they're making a distinction between, which I agree with pretty much everything that's in there. Liberation meaning complete liberation from this, which means that you've achieved all your desires. That's what I'm saying. So they're saying that you can get to a place where you live in a heaven, and at some point you will lose that if you get attached to the dream. Again, we talked about Hela. Hela showed me now, as I'm sitting here thinking about it, what she showed me was the state before complete liberation, where you have nothing. There's nothing being reflected back to you that this is what this is what that is, this is what I want, this is beautiful, this is ugly. It's just the state of emptiness. So I obviously wasn't ready for that because it was an uncomfortable experience, but that's what she's talking about, what pure liberation is. So Hela can bring pure liberation, absolutely. And I believe that's her whole existence, whole reason for her existence. Okay, so once again, if the soul responds to the dazzling white light of the second God with the joy of a pure heart, remember what I said, that the soul is joy. So that's how you know. Joy is not, like I said, drugs in the neck. Joy is not being diverted or distracted. Joy is a deep sense of peace and joy and satisfaction of whatever it is that you're doing. Now, you may need to do it a lot before you fully get satisfied, but that's the joy. So again, I believe it's talking about another sort of reflection of the second self, which is the soul. Once again, if the soul responds to the dazzling white light of the second God with the joy of a pure heart, he will be liberated. Boom, again, just like I said. But if he specifically reacts with anger from having indulged in this vice on earth, meaning having indulged in anger, he will recoil from the light in fear and be drawn into hell. Again, the assumption is that you don't have control over what's going on. You are a victim. So Ramne in Germany, you are a victim of what? I don't know, but you feel victimized. If you feel victimized now and you were to die, if you did not achieve the awareness that you are everything, then you will have this feeling of being drawn into the hell of your anger or whatever the hell it is. So that to me is what I'm seeing here. So it's just another level of that. And that's when I said earlier, when I walk into places and I've experienced this, where there have been ghosts, there have been people who are possessed, and they get up and leave. They can't be around me. It's not because I'm anything special. It's just because I just won't buy into it. I don't buy into that stuff. You want to be a victim? Go do it on your own time. I'm not going to play that with you. They can't be around that because it feels like it's killing them. Because in a sense it is. And this is one of the things that Buddhism talks about. What Buddhism did was, it took or specifically now we're talking about Tibetan Buddhism. Tibetan Buddhism, as it was being introduced into Tibet, by the way, Tibetan Buddhism has as many of the same kind of religious problems and bigotry that other religions have. They have caused a lot of problems to local indigenous religions. So please don't think that I think Buddhism is any different from any other religion. There's a lot of really great stuff, but the limitations are always damaging, these kinds of limitations. But this is what they did. There were Tibetan shamans. Shamanism was the Tibetan religion. And so what the Buddhists did is there was a war. There was a spiritual war between Tibetan shamanism, and this is the story anyway. How true it is, I don't know. But the Buddhists say that the shamans would send the spirits, the shamanic earth spirits, to attack the Buddhists. And the Buddhists didn't know what to do, so they called this guy, I forget his name, Vajrasattva. He was an East Indian tantric Buddhist who had started as a tantric Hindu, and he changed a lot of the names. So a lot of the names of the Buddhas are actually names of tantric Hindu deities. Avalokiteshvara, Tara. These are tantric Hindu deities that were then incorporated and said they're Buddhas. They're really just tantric Hindu deities. So what they did is they did the same thing with the shamanic earth spirits, and they converted them to Buddhism. So they're seen as, these are sort of like demons that converted and are now protectors of Tibetan Buddhism. Does that make sense? So this is what's happening here is that, when I talk about going places and there are people and demons that can't be around me, if they wanted to, not that I'm anything special, but if they could stay around me, then they would change their thinking and they'd stop being victims. Demons are victims. Demons are entities who are trapped in their own self-victimization. That's why they're angry. That's why they're violent. That's why human beings are angry and violent. They're trapped in their own victimization. Get it? Am I making sense? Okay. All right. So if he reacts to anger, having indulged in this vice on earth, he will recoil from the light in fear and be drawn into hell. The pattern is repeated on the third day. This time it is the fault if egotism. So what they're saying here is if anger is your problem, then you'll be drawn back because of anger. If egotism is your problem, that's the third day. The pattern is repeated on the third day. This time it is the fault if egotism that will cause the soul to react to the God with fear. So you go through the same thing, but if it's your ego, you'll still be afraid and it will draw you away. So that's your limitation. You're attached to your ego. And he will be drawn to the human world. So if you're angry, according to this, if you're angry, you'll be drawn into hell, which is nothing more than the unconscious mind, the underworld. If in the third day you have egotism, which is attachment to your identity, that's why somebody asked, that's why I think people do whatever you call it, you burn the body. You burn the body so that the soul goes, oh, that's not me. So it's an opportunity for the soul to release their attachment to their identity, their egotism. Do you hear the judgment in that? When I say attached to your identity, it sounds like, yeah, it's a limitation, but when it's egotism, you're full of ego. You see, this is what I don't like about religion. It's full of all this judgment. And even though this is Buddhism, and I'm not saying that the text talks this way, but just the way this person is describing it, I hear judgment, and that's what attracts people to religion. They're still trapped in some kind of dualist thinking, some kind of judgmental thinking. Otherwise, and that's what religions are there for. They give you the experience, the illusion of that, and then if you keep going, you finally release all of it, and then you no longer need it. See, I told you I'm coming from here. This is where I'm coming from. This is where I live. Because I don't want that religious thing. By the way, that's why I call myself a shaman. That's why I teach shamanism. Because I'm interested in the techniques that will liberate you, to connect you. I have fun with the techniques, but they're techniques. I look at it as a science as opposed to the scripture says you must do this, and if you're truly spiritual, you blah, 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 blah. I much rather have fun and experiment and practice with spiritual scientific techniques which give me a personal experience of not only the physical but the spiritual world. That's what Thunder Shamanism is all about. If you want to learn more about that, go to thunderwizard.com. Okay. All right, so let's get through this third day here. Oh, we already got through the third day. So on the third day, if he responds with egotism, he will be drawn to the human world and he will incarnate. Which I would say, here's how I would look at it. If he gets to that place and he has a desire to experience being a human being, it's not that he's trapped in his ego, it's that I liked being a human being. I want to do that again. Can I do it again? Where's another one? I want to be that guy. Okay, I'll be that guy. It's fun. There's nothing scary about it. You know, the reason my friend came to me, there was a lot of fear in what she was saying about you got to be careful because you'll be trapped. And get rid of that nonsense. We're here to have fun. There's nothing more or less spiritual about being a bodhisattva or being a person on earth. We're just entities in this amazing, wonderful multiverse. Having fun, that's all that matters. Just have fun. The rest of it is nonsense. Just go have fun. Okay. So, once again, the soul responds to blah, 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 blah. Okay. The pattern is repeated on the third day. Egotism. Okay. On the fourth day dawns the God of eternal life. If the soul has a negative reaction to the God of eternal life because of miserliness and attachment, he will be drawn toward rebirth in the Preta Loka, a world of hungry ghosts who have huge stomachs and throats the size of pinholes, and so they wander about in a constant state of unsatisfied, ravenous desire. Okay, so that, yeah, miserliness, so that just means that that's somebody who is really trapped in, obviously miserliness, but So I don't know, is that possible? I guess it's possible. That would be another realm of the underworld. That's somebody in the underworld, even if they're wandering around the actual earth, it doesn't matter to me. They're trapped in the underworld, which is they get to experience. The soul, listen, the soul wants to experience. So I could even say that this is a soul who says, I want to understand this whole thing about desire. So I'm going to really dive into desire, and I'm going to hold on to stuff, and then you get to experience what it's like to be a ghost that can never satisfy themselves. That's why ghosts are always screaming. That's why ghosts are always in pain. That's why ghosts are doing the same thing every day. They're trying to find the same, they don't know what time it is, what year it is, because they're trapped in that desire. And that soul, to me, is a soul that wants to learn. And they'll get through that and they'll go, yeah, you know what? Attachment doesn't mean anything. All right, I want to try the human thing again. And this time I'm going to learn how not to get attached to stuff. That's why you've lived thousands and thousands of lives. It's about fun. It's about having fun. So you learn pretty quickly that being full of desire and being attached to stuff that can never satisfy you, it's not fun. That's why we stop doing it. It's not because it's more spiritual. It's because it's not fun. Okay, that's my viewpoint anyway. That's what works for me. Okay, on the fifth day, God in the form of an almighty conqueror. This time it's jealousy that will unseat the soul, and he will be born into the Asura Loka, the realm of the demons, a world of fierce warrior deities or demons. So we're seeing the higher and lower realms of the self. So on the fifth day, then jealousy. And if the person is jealous, then they will be born into they will go and experience the realm of at least these certain warrior deities. On the sixth day, all the deities return and dawn together along with the six lights. Excuse me. On the sixth day, all the deities return and dawn together along with the lights from all six lokas. So again, it's like your soul is going through. Again, it's the underworld. You're experiencing all the aspects of yourself, and there are tests that you put. And if you see that certain light and you don't respond with egotism, it means you're sort of passing. You're getting a sense. It's a life review. You're getting a sense of where you're at, what you've appreciated, and what you've enjoyed, and what you haven't. What you've learned. I like that. I've experienced that, but I don't need that. Oh, I really want that. That's all it is. It's just self-examination. That's all that's happening here. So you don't have to be afraid about dying. You don't have to worry about it. All the stuff that these souls are going through is what you're going to go through every day anyway. You watch TV. Listen, I do this. I watch TV, and some really, right now I'm going through, I'm watching Lost again. And there's Evangeline Lilly. Man, she's hot. I go, oh my God, oh, if I could just, oh, and I get all wrapped up in my lust and on my need to have a girlfriend or whatever the hell it is. It's just you go through it every day. And then I go, that's ridiculous. That's not going to fix me. Or I go, that will fix me. And then, you go online and you go and try and get a date or whatever it is. We do it all the time, every single moment. Doesn't matter if you're doing it here or outside of the body. Okay. On the seventh day, there appear the knowledge-holding deities, who are more fierce and demonic-looking than those that have previously dawned, and in fact, they are sort of a transitional element to the next stage of the second bardo, where the soul encounters the wrathful deities. Meanwhile, if because of stupidity, boy, do you hear the judgment in that? Meanwhile, if because of stupidity the soul cannot face the knowledge-holding deities, holy crap, the judgment is just dripping out of this. He is drawn toward the brute loka. That is, he will be reborn on earth as an animal. Let me just say I don't buy into that for a second. I buy into the possibility that once you've gone through all this, then the knowledge deities, it's sort of like, hey, this is about knowledge now. This is about practical awareness here. And, when you give the bitter medicine, you come across harsh. I've been harsh to a couple of people. My apologies for that, by the way. I've been doing some spirit fighting. I'm training now. I'm a celibate guy now, so I'm training in spirit fighting again. Spirit fighting is, this is how you deal with negative entities, by the way. You don't give them any quarter. A negative entity is your own unresolved victim mentality that's coming at you through sadness or something else, anger, fear, whatever it is. And the way it forces you to be ruthless with yourself. So I'm ruthless with other people. It means that, but it's coming from a place of, here's the bitter medicine. I don't want to waste your time. I don't want to waste your time. Here's the bitter medicine. It doesn't taste good. So I'm coming at you. I'm kind of harsh, but I'm really just trying to give you the knowledge, deity, truth. Like, whether I'm doing it right or not is up for debate. But that's my intent based on this is what spirit fighting does to me. I don't believe, as I was going to say, I don't believe that people are reborn as animals. I don't believe that. You might create an experience of yourself where you create a little world where you get to go and be an animal. That's fine, but I don't believe that. I think once you're a human being, you get to be a human being, and you keep coming back until you're done. And then you get to be an elf. That's my belief. Okay. All right, so we've gone through the first week. There's a lot of stuff there. I may just kind of see if maybe we'll stop it here. It depends on how you guys feel, but let me first see if there are any questions. Okay, I'm not seeing any questions here. Do I see any questions? Nope, I don't see any questions. It says there's 24 people watching. Let's see, here it comes. Maybe there's more stuff coming. Again, looking for the questions. Sorry, again, if you just focus on questions, that helps me. I don't have to scroll through everybody's opinions or as they talk to each other. Chris Monet, question. So according to what you are reading, let's see, let me answer your question. Let me read your full question. So according to what you are reading, it wouldn't matter what house of the 12 you are born in. You can be done incarnating once fulfilled. Yes. If your assumption is that your astrological chart will tell you what you can or cannot do, or what is coming for your life, let's listen. I am an astrologer. I believe wholeheartedly if an astrological chart is done accurately, it will tell you all kinds of things that you will experience and what you can go through, but none of it says that you're trapped anywhere. So don't let any of it stop you. Yes, you can at any given moment decide that you are done with this life, but only if you fulfill your desires. So again, the whole idea of karma is not punishment. Weird is what you engage in the present moment, what you invest in, feelings, beliefs, actions, attitudes, creates a pattern in the past which will create a debt in the future. So if you get to the point where you've achieved all of your desires, you won't invest in anything, you won't create a past, you won't create a future, you'll go and be something else. There's no reason why that can't happen now. But again, why judge it? Who cares? I'm telling you, I'm having a lot of fun. Yeah, I'm going through all kinds of challenges and stuff like that, but I think my soul enjoys that too. I won't lie to you. There's a lot of pain. There's some days I'm in here crying myself to sleep because of what I've been through. But at no point do I say, I wish I didn't have to go through this. I don't do that. I'm having so much fun. And I find ways. Let me give you another example. I tore my quad, a couple months ago. So that healed up fairly good, and I've been walking around feeling good, and I hadn't surfed for a while. I went out back surfing and hurt like hell. And now I'm like, what am I going to do now? Well, you know what I'm going to do now? Now I have an opportunity to learn how to stand-up surf paddleboard, the stand-up paddleboard. I've been putting that off because I have so much fun with normal surfboards. And I get to go back and do something I probably haven't done in 40 years, which is to boogie board. So I have an opportunity now to have fun in ways that I normally don't because I'm just a shortboard surfer. Does that make sense? I'm having fun. Have fun. Everything, if you can understand that your soul is just trying to have fun, you won't get caught up in all this other crap. None of the guilt, none of the karma. The reason why, harming people or stealing people is wrong is because the soul doesn't like it. It's no fun. When you get wrapped up in your own, negativity, and you get in a spiral of negativity, it's because your soul is like, man, I'm not having fun here. Stop doing stuff that's not fun for me. You know, it's the fight between, again, like I said, your soul and your unconscious need to be accepted by others. That's all everything is, in my opinion. At some point, I can always get it back to that. And then the answer is real simple. Once you know what makes you happy, go do that. And forget about, you don't have to analyze all the rest of it. Just go do it. Okay? All right. Let's see, looking for the questions here. So Chris Monet, some say you must incarnate at minimum 12 times, go through all 12 houses, or can all 12 be complete in one incarnation? I'm going to tell you it can be complete in one incarnation. Why not? Again, why be limited by anything or anybody? But, you know, each one of those 12 houses, assuming that the assumption is that the astrological chart has 12 houses and these are the 12 things an individual must learn, that sounds like a lot of fun. Why wouldn't you want to do that? Why would you need, you know, if you're needing to be out of this life now, as I've said before, you're guaranteed to come back, because that's coming from fear. And if you're coming from fear, it means you haven't accomplished everything your soul wants. That's all it means. Just to understand, no matter how difficult things are, I swear to you, no matter how difficult things are, I promise you your soul is looking to have fun there. And if you just relax into it and surrender to God, surrender to your soul, you will learn how to have fun. You'll learn how to make it fun. So again, if you're trying to avoid it, you're gonna have it again. Because you'll want to. You'll want to come back. Okay. Let's see. I'm going to read Valerie Bradshaw's because I was so intense with her earlier. The emptiness state is very intense. So in terms of the one that you're experiencing, according to you, the emptiness state you're experiencing is very intense. Filling the void after the emptiness seems to me a very important decision on what to choose next, and I keep getting choose wisely. I have to talk to you more to know what that means. Sounds like you're going through a transition period. Okay, so yeah, so anyway, I know there wasn't a question there, but because I was so harsh with you, I thought I'd take a look and see what else you had to say. Okay, some of us have incarnated thousands of times, Sarah L. says. I completely agree. Probably most of us. Thousands of times. We started out as plants, I bet. Made our way up through the food chain. That's why we can't go back and be an animal. I don't believe that. Maybe you can have the experience in the underworld of being an animal, but I don't think we come back to this earth as an animal. I just don't. The universe is very thrifty, and the universe does not waste energy. So if somebody has made their way up to become a human, and they end up, whatever, getting trapped and making a mistake and getting trapped in, you know, in an illusion, the universe will say, hey, why don't you go over here for a while and play that out? And when you're ready, you can come back where you left off and we'll keep going. The universe isn't going to waste energy. That's a waste of energy to take a man, a human. Man means mind. We call ourselves man, because our ancestors didn't see us as physical beings. Our first ancestors saw human beings as spiritual mind. I talked about in the last thing. That's what elves are. Elves are humans that have become aware that they are spirit beings to the point where their physical body is no longer in our dense physical universe. That's what we were originally. So I kind of got off on, I don't know what I was talking about here, so let's see. We've incarnated, yeah, thousands and thousands of times. Oh yeah, I was talking about why people aren't born as reborn back into animals again. All right, looking for the questions. No questions here. You guys are helping each other out. That's great. I saw a question mark. Question. Okay, all caps are good for me. So, or big question marks. Russo von Royen question: what is Jupiter's effect in Pisces? Well, Pisces is Jupiter. Pisces is the internal aspect of Jupiter. So if Jupiter is in Pisces, if that's what you're asking me, then that means Jupiter is in a very spiritual sign. It's very happy. It's going deep within, very deep spirituality there. Ramnian, Germany, when you know all but you dumb yourself down for an experiment is wasting time. You know, Ramnian, Germany, now you're just arguing with me. I don't want to argue with you. Hey, man, if you want to stay trapped in your belief systems and you want to be, you know, go for it. You're going to do that, you know, go for it. How, you know, if that's what's fun for you, then go do it. Why, you're asking, why is this? Why is that? What answer could I possibly give you? You don't want, I'm giving you the answer out of it. You just don't like it. And I get it. It sounds hard. And it is hard a lot of times. And it can be a lot of fun. But if you want to be miserable, you can go ahead and do that. You know, when you're ready to stop being miserable, then, you know, maybe I can help you. Maybe somebody else can help you. But again, just go have fun. If you don't want to have fun, if being miserable is fun for you, then I'm okay with that too. Okay, Tasha. Tasha says, I've just awoken a year ago. What does that mean? You've just awoken? Like you're awake now? Well, you may have you know, it's a process. Let's get rid of the timeline of I am now awake or I am asleep. We're all in a state somewhere in between. So I'm glad you've awoken. Probably have some more awakening to do. And part of that awakening is to realize that it's a process. And we're always awake to whatever degree we're awake. So let's see here. All right, again, I'm being a little harsh. Question. I've been experiencing emotional chaos. So that sounds like you're a human being. I can understand that. I've been experiencing emotional chaos myself recently. I'm grateful for it because I will learn. Is there a way to figure out balance with certain meditation? Yes. Read my books. Go watch my videos. Tasha, if you're new to my channel, go watch my playlist on meditation. Go watch my playlist on Qigong. They are all ways that will help you figure out balance. But thank you for the question. John McDonald, question. If this experience is to experience joy, what happens after we experience joy and stop reincarnating? Well, you're asking about something that I don't remember achieving. My belief is that, I don't know, after we experience joy and stop reincarnating, well, then I think we move on to another realm of being. That's what I think the elves are, the ascended masters. My ancestors called them elves. The Buddhists would call them bodhisattvas. Catholics would call them saints. They've achieved all of their human desires, and now they've got other desires, which puts them on a different level of existence. So I don't think your desires are going to end. I think you'll experience something else. So again, I think the soul wants to have fun. So, you know, when this game gets boring, it's this video game we call being a human gets boring, it'll go to the next level and it'll have fun doing something else. You know, Romney in Germany said level after level, and you know, what he's missing is that it's fun. And when he remembers that this is fun, then he'll dive into it and he'll enjoy it again. Maybe I'm wrong. That's my take on it. Chris Monet, I'm actually loving this dream. Good for you. I was just clarifying what your thoughts were since you do astrology. Thanks for all you do. Okay, all right, so no question there. Russo von Royen, question. And so what if Saturn is also in, okay, so listen, I don't want to look at your whole chart. Number one, I don't know if this is a Vedic chart, or let me just say that, you know, I've been kind of nice with Western astrology, but I have to come out and tell you guys the truth. Western astrology is an inaccurate science. And the reason for that is because it's 24 degrees off. The reason why when you look at a Western chart and you look at the chart of the sky, it's not the sky that's above you. It's because they've been making mistakes which end up being 1 degree off every 72 years. So that means over the time since the Western, the tropical zodiac and the sidereal zodiac, which was, I can't remember the exact time, it was almost 2,000 years ago, they were aligned. When you looked at either one, you were looking at the sky above you. Western astrology, every time it calculates a chart, it's creating a sky that doesn't exist anymore. It's 2,000 years off. So that's why some planets are in different houses. That's why, you know, some people, when they get a chart from me, I tell them what their ascendant and what their sun sign is, and their sign and their, you know, sun sign will be one house over. That's because it's 2,000 years difference. So I would say if you really want astrology, do Vedic astrology. So again, I'm not going to do your chart here. If you want, you can go to astrology.thunderwizard.com. I'm happy to look at your chart. I'll take a question now and again, but I don't want to look at your entire chart. So again, I don't know if you're talking about a Western or Vedic chart. What is the spiritual purpose of autism? I don't have that answer to that question. I'd have to know more about autism to know what the spiritual purpose is. The only thing I can tell you is that there's something the soul wants to learn. Otherwise, it wouldn't choose to do that. Romney on Germany. Yeah, okay. He just wants to fight with me. I don't want to fight with you, Romney on Germany. I love you. You're welcome on my channel, but I don't want to fight with you. Susie Yoten's wife, question, do you use nakshatras, planetary degrees and divisional charts? I do use nakshatras, and I do use divisional charts. There's a lot of stuff I'm not an expert in, and you know, I haven't gotten into some of that stuff. There's a lot of stuff that I don't know. I'll just tell you right off the bat. There's a lot of stuff I don't know. But I think the stuff I do use, I think I'm pretty good at. So anyway, I'm always learning like everybody else. Yeah, Romney in Germany. Yeah, I don't want to argue with you, man. You keep asking me the same question over and over again. I already answered it. Okay, your Western chart says you're a Leo. My real chart, you mean your Vedic chart? Okay, so there's no question there. All right, let me see here. Okay, Valerie's saying I'm not being too harsh with her, so I appreciate that. Thank you. All right, that's it. No more questions. Let's see, how long have I been talking? Looks like it's been a long time. For 2 hours and 22 minutes. So I am going to cut it short for now. What I'm going to do is I'm going to put the ads back on so you guys can see where to go to contribute. Again, the best way to contribute to my channel is to go to thunderwizard.com and sign up as an apprentice at whatever level is available. I think somebody just dropped out. So be aware if you guys drop out, you know, especially at like the $108 level, there's usually somebody waiting to come take your place. I think somebody just dropped out, so I think there might be one place available at the 108. In any case, the best way to support this channel is to do the $25 a month. And if you don't know how to do that, you get to thunderwizard.com, and on the side it'll say all the differing levels of support. You know, I'm using it as a subscription channel, but it's really designed to be a support for people who do this kind of stuff, and you can support them at various levels. So the $25 a month, which I think is the intro level, initiate, anyway, that's the one that gives you access to all of the videos, but it doesn't give you access to me personally. That is probably the best way to go for people just starting out, and then you can start from the beginning. You go and scroll all the way to the bottom, keep hitting more videos or more or whatever it is, get all the way to the bottom and start at the beginning, and then you can learn about all this stuff about the thunder wheel, the 8 directions, the 5 elements, and learn how to apply it in your life and learn how to connect to all of these energies. So anyway, that's the best way to do it. So anyway, I'm going to be back in about in a couple of minutes, and then I'll have some pithy thing to say at the end. So I'll be right back. Okay, I'm back. So I think I know what I want to say as I close up this first part. Obviously, we'll have to come back because we didn't get through the whole thing. But let me see if there are any questions before I give my last little thing. So if there's any questions, now's the time to type them in before I sign off. We've been on here a while, so you might not have any. So while I'm waiting for that, if there are any, let me just say, Romney on Germany, I've been coming on you kind of hard, but there's something that you've been doing in your questions which is very human and very normal, which is you're asking why. So I've said numerous times, all you need to do is just relax and have fun. You do that, it'll take care of it. But then you come up with a question, yeah, but why this? Why that? I know I've gone through this. I'm pretty sure just about everybody listening to me has gone through this. You know, when you're with somebody that you really love and they break your heart, they break up with you, they cheat on you, or they just break up with you. What is it that you say? Well, I just want to know why. Why won't you talk to me? I just want to know why. And I learned a while ago that why didn't matter. It didn't. You know, maybe there's something to learn, like maybe you find out that there's a way that you behave, but when you ask the question why, it's because you want control. And you want control because you think if you know what it is that you can have control over, that you'll be able to fix it. And if you can fix it, then it'll be okay. So all the questions about why does this happen and why do we reincarnate and why that, once I've given you the answer, you can choose to disregard it, but assuming that you accept my answer that we do it because we choose to do it because the soul wants to fulfill its desires and wants to have fun. If that answer isn't enough for you and you need to keep asking the question why, it's because you feel powerless. And because you feel as though if you could just find something that would give you the why, then you would figure out what to do to change it. You're trying to change something. So there are some things that you can't change. You can't change the nature of the soul. The soul wants what it wants. You may not like how things are, and listen, being a victim is about being powerless. And so when we ask the question why, we're trying to get our power back. So that's what happens when your girlfriend or your boyfriend or your husband or your wife or whatever cheats on you or leaves you or whatever it is, and you say, why? I just want to know why. Because you think on some level that if you knew the reason why, that would give you some measure of control. And then you would be able to fix it and not feel bad anymore. Why did my fiance die? I could ask that. Why? Why is she not here? I mean, I'm in a lot of pain over it. I'm getting better. Obviously I'm a lot better than I was 45 days ago. But yeah, but it's pointless. I learned this a long time ago, way back in the dating realm. I think it was in my 30s. It's interesting now that I'm 54, dating is a lot easier. I don't have to work that hard. It's so weird. When I was in my 20s and 30s, I couldn't get, and I was an attractive guy. I couldn't get good. It was hard to get, hot looking. I'm swatting them off. It's so weird. And it's because I don't care anymore. I'm not desperate. I don't care. So that's part of it. If you want to enjoy life, if you want to attract things to you like money, like wealth, like success, stop caring about it so much. Just be where you are and be happy with what you have. Enjoy what you have, and the other stuff will come chasing after you. So if you're asking the question why, and like you really need to know, if you can just tell me why, I need closure. No, you want control. You think that if you know the reason why, you'll be able to control it and fix it. And so, learn how to just be in the moment. Be sad. Be happy. I'm willing to bet that people, I don't know Romney on Germany, but I'm willing to bet you've got some tragedy from your childhood that is really unresolved. And you think if you just knew this, if you just knew that, it would all be okay. it's not going to be okay. It's going to be really painful. Maybe I'm wrong. But if I am right, you're going to have to face a lot of your pain. You guys, you can't do it alone. If you're one of the trillions of people who go onto YouTube and indulges in binge watching YouTube channels, and you spend hours and hours watching all by yourself, you know, I get this. I've read so many books. I do so much study. I do so much research. And the people, like the people who are the flat earth people, the people who are into the whole Archon thing and all that, these are the people who research all the time by themselves. That's the point of it. You can't do it alone. You need people. You need friends. And you need teachers. You know, I'm going to have to start, I think, I'm not going to have to start. I'm probably going to choose to start certifying people to teach the things that I teach, because I just won't have the time. I've got enough people coming at me. I can't deal with everybody one-on-one, so I get to do that. I'm going to choose to do that. And seriously, and it's because we need people. We need teachers. We need people to be like Hella, who just reflects back without any agenda, who reflects back to us. And again, you can't get that from, this is why you pay people. You pay your plumber, you pay your doctor, you pay your car dealer, you pay your, you know, your internet provider. You pay people stuff. The reason why you pay people is so that they give you what you need without agenda. If you're looking for somebody to be your mother or your father, it's not helping you. You know, so anyway, I'm gonna eventually, I think I'm gonna start training people to do kinds of stuff that I do. Anyway, we'll see what happens. Any case, I'll get to the story here. You know, when it came down to dating, and I would want to know why, you know, what was wrong with her? Why didn't she want to go out with me? Or why did she stop dating me? Or, you know, here was the big one that I hated, was that I'd get some girl's number, and then we would get something together where we were going to go on a date, and I would be really into her, and oh my God, or I was younger and I was full of lust, and, you know, I was hoping something was going to happen, really attached to whatever it was I thought I was going to get from this girl. And then at the last minute, I get the phone call, you know what, I'm too tired, or I'm washing my hair, or I forgot I had to do this, or, you know, whatever. And then it would just infuriate me, like, why? And then it stopped, and I realized, you know, because I could get caught in that. You know, I could get caught in that chasing after some girl who was constantly keeping me at bay, and it was tearing me up because, oh, if she just knew, we would be so good together, and oh, the love that, you know, all that crap. And then at one point I stopped and I said, you know what, it doesn't matter why. What matters is that she just doesn't want to be with you. Because if she did, she would have said yes and you would have gone on the date. If she's pulling you along, even though she's telling you, oh, I really want you, I really like you, oh, but I'm too busy. It doesn't matter what the reasoning is. The reasoning is that she just doesn't want you. She can't be with you. That's all that matters. And so then I came up with a rule when it came to dating. I still follow it. If I ask a girl out and she says anything other than yes, or I can't do it that day, but I'm free on such and such day. If it's any other response like, oh, maybe, or let me see, or yeah, I'd really like to, or meh, if it's anything other than those, it's a no. And I never ask her out again. And that helps me because it doesn't matter why. You know, why did your parents do what they did to you? I don't know. Who cares? Why are we reborn? Why do we have to do this? The why won't help you feel better. It just is. It is what it is. Accept things exactly as they are and say, okay, what can I do about it? Like I told you about my knee. My knees hurt. You know, I walk around fine, but if I get in a super crouched position for too long, it really hurts. So that means I can't surf, you know, especially on some of the big days, I can't do it because I have to crouch down a lot of pressure on my knees. I could get all wrapped up in that, and why did that happen, and why did I injure myself, and then, you know, I started doing that. That's how I know I started. And I went, hey, wait a second, I've been wanting to learn how to stand up paddleboard surf, and I've been wanting to boogie board again, you know, on my off days. Why don't I just do that? It's an opportunity for me to have fun. That's where you need to be. When you're in the middle of the why, you know, stop asking why and just go, what can I do right now? And your soul will always have the answer. And sometimes you create, not sometimes, every time you create restrictions around yourself, it's because your soul is like, I really want to do this, and I got to kind of convince him to do that. If he won't listen to me, I'll create some restrictions that'll force him or her to go do that. But sometimes we don't listen. So for me, for example, for a few days I started getting really bummed. So I'm like, man, I just moved into this new apartment and I came here so I could surf every day. And I can't surf right now because my knee, and oh man, I don't want to be here. What a waste of money. I'm spending so much money. Blah, blah, blah. And that's, you know, I got kind of wrapped up in that. And that's what happens. People get wrapped up in that because it's safe, because we understand it. Ramnan, Germany, I don't know you, but based on what I've seen, you like to ask the questions. You like to be in that state of misery because you understand it. When you're willing to move out of that, you can start with having fun right now. And then you can slowly move out of that. It may take some time, you know. Be gentle with yourself. It's okay. It's okay to be wherever the hell you're at. And that's the whole point of this. I'll wrap it up with this. You know, what I will say to my friend, if she calls and I talk to her again, maybe she'll see this. I think she watches some of my videos. And she wants to talk about the Tibetan Book of the Dead. I will say it's a really cool book. But you don't have to worry about what happens after you die. You don't have to read this book to learn what you need to do to avoid what your soul going through, the whatever. That's fear. What's fun about this book is to see, wow, how am I doing that now? When I'm faced with my soul giving me an option and I respond out of fear, anger, or as they call it, egotism, or miserliness. This is something that you do every moment of every day. When your soul gives you an opportunity, you have to choose between your fear-based stuff and jumping off the cliff and realizing you are everything. Realizing in this world what it means is that when you go after what your soul truly wants, you realize that that the universe will provide everything that you need, even if it looks like, you know, you're going to lose the money and lose the job and lose the girl and lose the whatever. If going after what your soul wants is really scary and frightening, when you realize that it's all an illusion and the only thing that matters is the joy that comes from your soul, then all of a sudden you will realize the universe, which is just your soul, will give you absolutely everything that you need in order to achieve whatever it is your soul wants. It has to. That is a law. That's how it works. And when you choose to, out of fear, not listen to your soul and indulge in whatever it is that keeps you away from that, then you end up causing yourself misery. That's what causes pain, in my belief. So, all right, that's it for me. I think I've said enough. I'll check once again to see if there are any questions. I don't see any. Yeah, Ramneon, Germany, again, you know, you're talking a lot of stuff. Listen, if you want my help, you can get a session with me. But just know I'm not going to put up with any of the crap, and I'm going to tell you what's what. If you want somebody to make you feel, you know, pat you on the back and help you be miserable, it's not going to be me. I will help you find a way out. It is whatever it is. Do you want out? You're probably going to need some help. So you can get a session with me. I'd be happy to help you. But yeah, you probably need some help. Okay, so Ozma 337, I want to learn if you're serious about students, how do we contact you? Well, you can go to, you know, info@thundershamanism.com. But, you know, the best thing to do would be start. Go on to thunderwizard.com and start at the $25 level and actually start learning. But if you want to be part of the astrology certification course, that I'm still putting together. So you can email me, info@thundershamanism.com. Let's see. We do need people who are without agenda. I agree. All right. All right, that's it. Done. no more questions, so I'm done for today. So thank you, my friends. Thank you for letting me rant and rave, as this is part of my soul desire. It helps me because I think about these things and I experience them, and it's so intense, and I got to do something with it. So by allowing me to be a part of that, you are helping me. And you know, and when I help myself, I help everybody. Same with you. When you help yourself, you help everybody. So that's it for me for now. Until next time, my friends, just remember that there is no here or there. You know, there is no life after death. There's just life, and you're in a different bardo, whether it's in the physical or whether it's in, even if you're an elf, it's still a bardo. It's still a dream. So enjoy the dream and learn how to be a what do they call that? A conscious dreamer. I forget the name of it right now. Learn how to consciously control your dream, whatever it is. That's what we're all here to do in this. So until next time, my friends, thank you so much, and I will talk to you again very soon.